Hello, and welcome to 2022 with STST. Thank you very much for joining me. Recently, there was a debate between FTFE and Rachie 00000, and I was the moderator. I'm now going to do a mirror of that very debate. Because it was just a great all-round debate. FTFE named it the greatest destruction of a flat earther ever. And I quite agree. I do quite agree. Some of the comments, and I will be putting them up here, were absolutely brilliant and amazing about my moderation. It was the second time I'd moderated. I have moderated on MC Toon's channel before, and that was for a 5G debate. But this was flat earth, and I know you guys are very interested in that. So we are starting a debate channel ourselves, me and Deadly Dave. So this is a promotion for that new channel coming up, and I'm going to leave a link in the description of the new Truth Debates channel. As you can see, people said it was very well moderated. I've still got a lot to learn, of course, but if you haven't seen the debate between FTFE and Rachie, and you sometimes are put off by the dumpster fires, etc., FTFE came to me and asked for me to moderate and to be the moderator. I think he just wanted to go at it a different angle and not just sit there and have a shouting match with Rachie. So if that's what you're expecting, it's not going to happen. It was a moderated, structured debate, and I really feel the way this debate is structured absolutely highlights who actually did some preparation, who didn't, who actually had evidence, who didn't. And it kind of is quite obvious after watching the debate that Flat Earth does have nothing. The first debate that Rachie had with FTFE was gravity, disequilibrium, density, round and round in circles. This is not that, and we get to nearly 2 hours before gravity is even mentioned. So come along for the ride. I'm going to be sitting in the chat, and I just thought it would be quality. It's the start of the new year. Let's sit together, watch a debate, and I will be coming at you with new debates soon. Me and Deadly Dave on Truth Debates. On with the show.
Welcome back to the channel that does to stupidity what the end of prohibition did to the freedom and free use of cannabis. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go to the Skatoon Show, MC Toon and Schrodinger's Cat's new channel, and check out the debate I had yesterday about whether cannabis should be legalized. I very much enjoyed that. Today we are having round 2 of a debate with Rachie 50, and I'm not going to be in charge. The person that's going to be in charge is ex-Flat Earther, Seek Truth, Speak Truth. So I'm going to pass it over to him now. Seek Truth, Speak Truth. Hello, thank you for joining.
Hello, mate. Thank you very much for, well, both agreeing to allow me to host this debate this evening between you and Rachie. As you say, I'm an ex-flat earther, so this stuff just really interests me. I was Rachie once. I held the same beliefs, so I feel like I can be quite impartial in this situation. I, of course, know that this is an FTFE debate channel, so I'm not going to be jumping in and, you know, stopping the game from developing, shall we say. So it's a structured debate this evening, and I have, you know, a little structure going. So what we're going to do is basically a 2 to 3 minute introduction each. No evidence at that moment, just state your position and who you are, basically, for the both of you. And then we're going to go into, say, a 10-minute presentation from one debater. And then during that, the other debater will be muted. And then 10 minutes of uninterrupted going against the claim. So you show your evidence as to why the original claim is wrong. And then after that, we will then go into, say, 10 minutes of open discussion on that topic. And then we'll switch around and do the exact same thing. Debater 2 will bring their evidence, and it will go like that. And then I myself have some moderators' questions that I will be asking after all of that, and then we're going to go into an open discussion. So like I say, I shouldn't be needing to step in a lot. Try your best during open discussion to not overtalk each other. As stated, I'm not going to be jumping in every 2 seconds. You're both adults, but don't make me, basically. Don't make me. I do have access to the mute button for both of you. And let's just make it a fair and fun discussion. So let's start, first of all, with introductions. So that is just a 2 or 3 minute opener. FTFE, could you introduce yourself and state your position?
Yeah, thank you very much. I just want to quickly first say thank you very much for agreeing to host on my channel, and I do appreciate you taking time to be here. And Rachie, thank you for coming back as well for round 2. Right, yeah, so I am FTFE. If you're here, you probably know what I do, and thank you very much for joining. I very much enjoy the discussion and the debate in general. I have a lot of fun in doing it, and I enjoy communicating science in my own particular way, and I hope that I've helped a lot of people learn some things along the way, and I do get nice emails quite regularly saying how people have taken up studies and stuff because of listening to me, and I really appreciate that I help people in that way. I'm going to try and be as well behaved as possible tonight. I know you guys are used to dumpster fires from me. I'm going to try and be my best self, and hopefully have a decent discussion with Rachie. Thank you for watching. So, yeah, that's me.
Great stuff. Thank you very much. Rachie, over to you for your introduction.
Okay, well, thank you for having me, first of all. And I'd like to thank Seek Truth, Speak Truth for moderating. And my name is Rachie, 5 zeros, and basically I'm a flat earther because there is no evidence of a globe.
Okay. That's it. Yep. Okay. No worries at all. So I'm going to ask FTFE first. So this will be his 10 minutes, well, up to 10 minutes. You can obviously relinquish time if you wish, but up to 10 minutes. It will be timed to present evidence for your claim. And then there will be 10 minutes from you, Rachie, to, your side of the argument, why FTFE is wrong. And then a 15-minute open discussion after that. So up to 10 minutes, please, FTFE. Please present your first piece of evidence.
Okay, thank you. So I am going to start with something that I think is fundamental to the entire argument, and that's measurements. And I'm going to specifically talk about measurements of rotation of the Earth. Because if the Earth is rotating in 3 axes, then it is also a sphere. And we know it's rotating in 3 axes because it's been measured. Thanks, Bob. Obviously, we know Bob Nadell did his measurement with the fiber optic gyro. which can be repeated by anybody that has any kind of interferometer, and will always show that there's a rotation of 15.04 degrees, unless you are actually moving the device or changing the pressure of where it's at. But once it's settled and it's wherever you turn it on, you always get 3 axes that show 15.04 degrees and 1 degree roughly of a 2-dimensional degree per day, which represents Earth's rotation around the globe. There's no around the sun. Sorry, there's no reason for it to pick up what it does, or any kind of rotation at all, if the Earth isn't rotating. It's simply not how a fibre optic thing functions. But we've all seen that. I don't need to play the clip. Thanks, Bob. But there's other ways to measure rotation that are quite easy. There's other things that we should expect to happen. Coriolis force, Yotvos force. Wolfie 6020 did an excellent demonstration of the Yotvos effect. The Yotvos effect is a manifestation of the fact that you can travel with and against the rotation of the Earth. So the Earth is rotating from east to west, west to east at 15.04 degrees per hour. That means that if you are traveling with the rotation of the Earth, say you're in a plane that's traveling from one side of Australia to the other with the rotation of the Earth, what you're going to do is you're going to increase the centrifugal acceleration that you're experiencing, which in effect reduces the perceived gravitational effects and will reduce the weight of items. And then vice versa, if you're traveling against the rotation of the Earth, then you're going to reduce the centrifugal acceleration and increase the perceived gravitational acceleration, which can be measured as a weight. Wolfie 6020 did an excellent demonstration of this by taking a test weight on a plane going east to west and west to east on Australia, and even though obviously there is perturbations due to turbulence and stuff, you can see the average of the weights during the flights represented what we expect to see. It matched the predictions. When he flew with the rotation of the Earth, his weight lost weight. It physically went from one particular weight to a lower one, and then when he was going against the rotation of the Earth, it actually gained weight on average, which is what we expect to happen. That's a manifestation of the fact that you can increase or decrease the perceived gravitational acceleration by having other forces acting in the opposite direction. Another excellent demonstration of the rotation of the Earth is the fact that we can measure it with a pendulum. It's very, very easy. And the gentleman physicist is one of my favourite examples of this. So let me get my video up. Oh God, I just put it on. Where did I bloody put it? Okay, 2 secs. I'll bring it up on screen. So what the gentleman physicist did was he built his own version of a Foucault's pendulum. And used this to measure the rotation of the Earth. Now, if the Earth is rotating, then there's predictions that you can make with a pendulum, because based on where you are on the Earth, you are going to be experiencing a different amount of Coriolis forces and a different amount of time that a pendulum would take to drift 360 degrees. Or if it was at the poles, then a pendulum would drift 360 degrees in 24 hours. If you're at the equator, it wouldn't drift at all. So he set out to test this by seeing that... Let me bring this up on screen. Give me 1 sec. There it is. So this is the... he's showing here the classic Foucault's pendulum that a lot of flat earthers complain about because it is motorized to keep it swinging. But the Coriolis forces induced onto it from the rotation of the Earth mean that it rotates. The drift doesn't stay in one plane left to right. It rotates all the way around, and the amount of the drift off of a straight line path can actually be predicted based on the latitude you are on Earth. So that's what he set out to test in this experiment. So he has this pendulum that he lets swing, and you can see here, swings backwards and forwards with a little ink pad underneath and a little paintbrush that traces the path. And they let it swing for as much as they could. I think it was about 0.6 of an hour, so 41 minutes. And over the 41 minutes, you can see that the straight line path backwards and forwards has changed. It has drifted clockwise, which matches the first prediction of them being in the northern hemisphere. In the southern hemisphere, we'd expect it to go counterclockwise. So how do they figure out if it's matched their latitude on Earth? Well, they have to measure the angle that they've got first and figure out the period it would take to do 24 hours. The clockwise turn of the drift means that they're in the northern hemisphere, and then they measure the angle here, and it's a 7.89 in 0.688 hours, which is 41 minutes. So you do a simple bit of maths to figure out the period of rotation. So the period of rotation t is the time that it's swaying times 360 divided by the degree, and you get how long t, which is the period of time it would take to do 360 degrees around. So 31.4 hours based on what they got here. So then what you do is you take t and you do a little bit of trigonometry, and you take the, to get your latitude, you take the arc sine of 24 hours divided by the period of rotation that you've got, and that will equal your latitude on Earth. So based on the data that they gathered, they should be at a latitude of 49.8. That's what their experiment they did, the data that they get says, based on their prediction, this is what their latitude should be. So what was their actual latitude? Well, it's just slightly off. It's really close. Here they show it. 48.4. So you've got an error of 1.4 degrees, which is pretty damn good with the very basic equipment that they're using. This can be repeated anywhere on Earth. And the only way that you could have forces imparted onto this that specifically could match your latitude on Earth is if you are on a rotating body that is imparting the expected Coriolis forces. There's no explanation for this happening if we're on a flat, non-rotating Earth. This can only happen if you are rotating, and the fact that based on your latitude on Earth you will have a different period of rotation shows that we are on a three-dimensional object that is rotating. You could even use the data, if you did the experiments on different places on Earth, you could use the data that you got to calculate the radius of Earth based on the distance that you traveled between the period of rotation and etc. So my main point here is there's many ways to measure the rotation of the Earth. And if you take Bob's measurements or any interferometric gyro measurement, if you take Wolfie's experiment and take the data from that, if you take the data from the gentleman's physicist experiment here, or any measurement of the Earth's rotation, a gyro compass, a physical mechanical gyroscope, superfluid phase coherence, any measurement ever of the Earth's rotation, you always get the same, within a margin of error of 15.04 degrees per hour in 3 dimensions, which means we are on a rotating globe. I'm done.
Okay, thank you very much there, FTFE, for that. Rachie, so up to 10 minutes now to basically refute, first of all, the claim of Foucault's pendulum. Why isn't it showing Earth spin? Up to 10 minutes, and at FTFE, if you could obviously just mute yourself, mate, and then we will go to open discussion for 10 minutes after that. Rachie, over to you.
Okay, so you talk about the gyroscopes and Bob's, thanks Bob, with his gyroscope, but it's amazing how when he put that video out, well, when he put the data out, not one of you Globers, which normally you all jump on things, not one of you Globers actually jumped on the information and the data they released and says, hey, look, Bob was a liar. Bob, he lied about how much rotation he got when he redid the experiments at different altitudes. Not one of you jumped on that. And yet you all jump on everything as soon as somebody gets something wrong. But not once did you jump on that, not one of you Globers after he released the data. For the Foucault's pendulum, you say basically the Earth is rotating beneath it, so that it's hitting the pegs and that as it goes around. But if that was the case, if it's just swinging in one plane and the Earth's rotating beneath it, then because it's attached to the ceiling, is the ceiling not rotating as well? Because if you've got the floor rotating, obviously the ceiling's going to be rotating, and that's going to rotate the pendulum. But you try and say that that's just going in a plane backwards and forwards. Well, the Earth rotates beneath it, but then helicopters and things can take off the ground, and then nothing rotates underneath their reference frame, as you call it. So I don't accept the pendulum as evidence at all. So yeah, that was, and the Coriolis you brought up. There is no Coriolis. Like, even if you have a cannon, you know, like a cannon, and you shoot a cannonball up, most of the time it ends up going straight back into the cannon nozzle. So therefore there is no rotation. Otherwise you'd see Coriolis and that, and you never do. And yeah, basically they're just claims without evidence. And the only thing you've really got is a pendulum, and that would obviously, if the top's rotate, if the ceiling's rotating, it's connected to the ceiling, then obviously that would impart rotation onto the pendulum, and you say that it doesn't, it just goes in the plane. And like, what else was I going to say? Oh, and as it's rotating backwards and forwards, obviously, like I said, the helicopters and things, and you see drift underneath other things, but you never do. So, no, you don't have no evidence, basically. And that's basically me done because you have nothing.
So you'll relinquish the remainder of your time?
I do, yes. Yeah.
Okay, no worries. So we're now gonna go into a 10-15 minute open discussion. So you guys obviously back and forth. Rachie obviously just finished there. So FTFE, mate. Like I say, I'm not going to just jump in all the time. So have a good chat. But be nice and courteous as you can. FTFE, over to you, buddy. Up to 10 minutes, 15 minutes.
Right, thank you. So, Rachie, wow, kind of hit every flat Earth talking point there with regards to that. Let me just bring up on full screen so it's just me and you. Right, so Bob's, I'll go through point by point that you brought up. Bob's data. First of all, the data that he brought up, the showing different rotations at different altitude. The different rotations only happened during the movement of the thing. Once he settled down on solid ground, every single time he got the same measurement. They tried changing the pressure around it, and that didn't even alter the data. He was questioned about this by Professor Dave on live stream, and he said that every single time they actually measured it whilst it was still, he got the same rotation. So it was always 15.04 degrees per hour. Even when they did it when they were moving, it was still within the margin of error of the device that they were using. So yes, they did get slightly different measurements when they were moving with it between altitudes, but the difference they had was within the margin of error of the apparatus, which means that it didn't actually measure anything outside of what the device could register within its own accuracy.
So did I hear you correctly there that you said Bob went on Professor Dave or something and told him that he was
Professor
moving
Dave was in Bob's live stream when Bob was doing his attempted debunk of Dave's first Flat Earth video, and Dave asked some questions in the chat about it, and he mentioned that whenever they had the gyro set down, it always measured 15.04 degrees per hour, which he claimed profusely was the measurement of the aether, which we know doesn't exist. But any difference that they had, whenever they used it, it was always within the margin of error of the apparatus, never outside of the margin of error, and always within the margin of error of 15.04 degrees per hour.
Okay, so do you have evidence of Bob saying this? Because as far as I'm aware,
it's on his live stream.
Do you have the evidence? Can you get it to me at some point or something?
I will try and find the clip for you, yeah, if you like. I probably have it saved
I've
in one
heard
of my
different
files.
from Bob, so...
What did Bob specifically say to you?
That when it was stationary, it was picking up more than 15 degrees.
How much more?
Within 1 degree, if not more. I think it was either slightly less or slightly more than 1 degree.
Than 1 degree.
And that was when they went to Colorado Peaks, I believe
0.1
it was.
degree.
No, it was a substantial amount. It wasn't just like 0.1 or 0.2. It was definitely either just below a degree or just over a degree.
Okay, I'd love to see that data, because all the data I've seen is always within the margin of error of the actual apparatus. But let's stick to the point here.
But why did none of you do videos on this thing? Because you all jump on things.
Because
you all say thanks Bob,
Yeah.
but now you don't say, hey, look, he lied that he was getting more than what he should have done, or oh, look, he was lying about the data all this time.
Okay,
Nothing like that.
because it was always within the margin of error of the apparatus, which would require no debunk or calling him a liar, because everything that is a measurement must have a margin of error. So there would be no reason to call him out for anything.
So you're saying it did pick up more than 15 degrees then?
I'm saying within the margin of error of the device that they were using.
And what was the margin of error?
0.1 degrees.
And do you have the data that Bob had?
I've seen the data that Bob had.
Okay, can you show me the data that shows that it was in that error range?
Yeah, I can send you the specifications of the device and the data that I've seen from Bob, if I can find it on the live stream. But this is what he's told people, and this is why nobody on my side would say, oh, look, Bob lied, because the device never did anything other than what we expect it to do.
But Bob said it picked up more, which is why he says it was the ISA that he was picking up.
Yeah, whether it picked up slightly more or not, again, based on how the apparatus is being used, is going to change what they're doing. But as far as I'm aware, whenever it's been stationary, it's always been within the margin of error. And excuse me, there's no way that the device could pick up anything other than physical rotation, especially not an aether of any kind. There's literally no way that that specific device could pick up any kind of anything outside of the device. It just doesn't have the capabilities to do that. But that is Bob's data, and the fact is that it picked up rotation, which matches with other bits of rotation. So the next thing you said was... How do you get those
picked up rotation?
Because it measured the rotation using the Sagnac effect. It registered the drift that you would expect if it was on something that was rotating.
And how did you determine it was the rotation?
Because it measured a interference pattern which matches the rotation of the Earth, and that is how the device functions, by physically moving the device underneath the path of light, which would shorten or increase the path that light has to travel, meaning that when the light recombines, you get an interference pattern. The only way that can happen is if the actual device itself is moving. If it's stationary, then the light will always travel the same distance because C is constant in a vacuum, and you won't register an interference pattern. That is how planes determine their position on Earth using the interferometric gyroscopes based on the rotation that they can measure, and that's what they do. So it's the Sagnac effect.
So you say that when it's stationary...
Let me clarify. It uses the Sagnac effect to determine if there's an interference pattern which you can register as a drift of the Earth in rotating.
And you say when it's stationary, it picks up no interference pattern?
Absolutely, yes.
So when is it ever stationary?
If it was stationary, if it was on something that wasn't moving. So if the device...
was stationary, so how can you test that then?
You can move it counter to the rotation of the Earth, which is an experiment that's been done with similar devices.
And how does that prove the rotation of the Earth? It just
because
proves
if you were to move it, if you were to rotate it counter to the rotation of the Earth, it would counter the interference pattern that it is getting and show that it has to be rotating the other way to get zero, which would show that there's a rotation. The fact is, as soon as the device is turned on, the second an interferometric gyroscope is turned on, it registers a drift in 3 dimensions, in 3 axes, and a 2-dimensional drift about 1 degree a day. There's no reason for that to happen if it's not on something that is rotating.
Maybe if it's connected to the stars, then it could be.
It can't see the stars. It's no idea what the stars are doing.
It doesn't need to see the stars to be affected by whatever's controlling them.
What would that be?
Well, it could be anything from electromagnetism to something completely that we don't even
electromagnetism
aware
wouldn't work. Electromagnetism wouldn't work because light has no charge and is not affected by electromagnetism. Anyway, yeah, there was a few points you brought up, and we've only got 10 minutes. So the next one was you brought up the Foucault's pendulum and the fact that it's connected to the ceiling. Well, pendulums are connected via a pivot point, which allows it to maintain its rigidity in 3D space. That's the entire point of a pendulum. They have a pivot point which allows it to, not have that physical connection, but a freedom to move in 3 dimensions. And
you don't think friction would affect that?
Oh, friction does affect it. That's why you have to make sure that you minimize things like friction. If you need a much larger string, for instance, because then the pivot point moves a lot slower, and there won't be as much friction being affected. You need to make sure you're using the right materials. You have to obviously do controls. But the fact is that when it's done correctly, every single Foucault's pendulum around the world will be able to determine your latitude on Earth, which there's no explanation for that if the Earth is flat and non-rotating.
Okay, so that pendulum that you brought up with the...
Yeah.
Sorry, I did say 15 minutes, sorry, not 10 minutes.
Right, okay, right.
I just want to ask a quick sort of question to even it up a little bit, because I feel FTFE is being asked a lot of questions. what evidence would you have, Rachie, that the pendulum is not showing rotation of Earth?
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Like with the pendulum that he brought up with the circle things underneath it where it knocks down the stick things sticking up. I was going to say, like, where would that be on Earth? Because, like, say you've got a globe. I'll just beg the question with you and say it's a globe. I mean, if it was on the pole, then you could imagine it going around in the circle and knocking each one down. But if it's not at the pole and it's on the side of the Earth, then it's not going to rotate in a circle. Like,
right, I see.
to be able to knock them down. You know what I'm saying?
So the only place on Earth where it won't do it won't move at all is at the equator. Any degree off of the equator, you are going to get it going 360 degrees, but the period of the rotation is going to be different. Like in the gentleman's physicist experiment that I showed you, the period of rotation, the 360 degrees, would have taken 31.4 hours. And that's what you can use to calculate your latitude, is how long it takes to do that rotation. If it doesn't do a rotation, if it's not moving, you know you're at the equator. If it takes exactly 24 hours to do 360 degrees, you know you're at the poles. Anywhere in between, you need to take the arc sine of the 24 hours divided by the period of rotation to actually calculate your latitude in degrees.
Okay, I must have misheard you wrong there. Did you say it takes 31.4 hours to do 360 degrees?
In the experiment of the gentleman physicist, yeah, at his latitude of roughly 49, well, I think it was 48.7, his latitude, it takes 31.4 hours to do a full 360 degrees in a clockwise direction because he's in the northern hemisphere. And that's the predictions.
How does that work? It rotates once every 24 hours.
Because, right, so...
Should be 360 degrees in 24 hours now?
Yeah. At the poles, yeah, that's what you get, because then the...
Yeah, but it should never be more than that, because the whole thing rotates in...
It really should. It's kind of hard to visualize it in your head. But imagine, because the pendulum is going backwards and forwards, that rigid position in 3D space is going to be affected more the closer to the poles, because that's where the rotation is. As it goes towards the equator, the rigidity in space will be different relative to the linear speed of the Earth. So you're always going to get, between the poles and the equator, a different amount of Coriolis forces being imparted onto it, changing the amount of rotation. That's probably not a very good way to explain it, but there is a video I remember that has a very good visualization of it, but it's because it depends on the angle of the pendulum where it's on Earth, as to that swing with the rotation of the Earth imparts a different amount of Coriolis forces. And that's why you can use it to calculate your latitude, because you expect at every different degree of latitude a different amount of forces to be imparted onto that pendulum. And that's why you can use that degree that you get to calculate your actual latitude on Earth. And then if you know which stars you're supposed to see, you could even calculate exactly where you are on Earth.
Okay, well, why doesn't it keep angular momentum if that's the case?
What do you mean?
Well, you say everything on Earth keeps the angular momentum, so you say basically if a helicopter takes off or anything, we all keep the angular momentum, so why wouldn't...
Oh, you mean you're talking about conservation of momentum in a linear fashion, not angular, but yeah, so it does have the linear momentum. The entire apparatus has the linear momentum, but there is also the fact that gravity is pulling on the pendulum, is making it come backwards and forwards and affecting the fact that it can't continue in that linear path. So the second the pendulum is let go, yeah, it has the linear momentum of the Earth at that point as it was let go. But then it's attached to the string, which is one force pulling it back, and then there's the force of gravity, the force due to gravity that is pulling it down.
Gravity's not a force.
Yes, so that's why I clarified the force due to gravity, so we don't get into that argument. That force that pulling the pendulum down. So you got things that are countering the fact that it had that linear momentum, and then it's all the forces combined that then you get the drift that you expect.
And what was your independent variable?
The position of the Earth could be the independent variable. The position that you are on Earth. So
the position of the Earth causes...
No, position that you are on the Earth. So if you want your independent variable to be the thing that you wiggle according to flat Earth science, then you change your position on Earth. You physically change where you are on Earth when you're doing the experiment. You change your latitude, and then that means that the dependent variable would be the amount of drift induced onto the pendulum, because that's the thing that is measurably different due to your independent variable changing.
So you're saying the cause is your location on Earth?
The amount of drift that you would get would be due to your location on Earth, yes.
So the cause is the location of Earth, and you don't see how absurd that sounds?
No, absolutely not, because that is what you are changing to get a measurable difference, because that's your prediction, right? That's what you expect to see.
And since when can a location cause anything?
A location change can cause a lot of things. That's what we expect. If you are on a different location on a rotating globe, you will have different Coriolis forces imparted onto a pendulum. That's exactly what we expect.
But you're kind of begging the question.
You're
begging the question, saying it's a globe.
Rachie.
Not begging any question. It's making a prediction. That's what you do in science. That's how you have a testable thing.
Guys, couple of minutes left. But this is it's a debate, guys. So you say if someone makes a point, the other debater needs to refute that point, rather than kind of go around in circles and just, maybe it's okay to obviously ask questions, of course, but it does get to a point when it leads to
I did want to cover the other points as well. There was two other things that she brought up.
Yeah, there's a couple of minutes left.
Right. So basically, you didn't debunk it by not understanding it. The prediction is that's what we would get. That's what we expect. You then said helicopters don't. The Earth doesn't rotate underneath helicopters. Well, they use the atmosphere, so you wouldn't expect it to. And then you started talking about Coriolis, and you said you shoot a cannonball straight up, and it can come down in the same place, but that's not Coriolis. Coriolis affects a freely moving object, not something that is stationary in the reference frame. If something goes straight up and down, it's not going to be affected by Coriolis, because Coriolis has to affect something traveling in a straight line, freely moving in a straight line path. That's
because the Earth should move underneath it.
That's not what Coriolis is. That's a misrepresentation. Coriolis is the Earth rotating independently, not underneath. So you don't have...
Neil deGrasse Tyson with a football?
Yeah, he didn't say that the Earth rotated underneath the football.
Yes, he did.
No, he didn't. His exact words were that... No, he didn't. His exact words were the rotation of the Earth imparted a 1/8 of an inch deflection to the right, which is the Coriolis deflection that you would expect from something moving in a straight line path. But if something is going straight up and down, Coriolis says that there shouldn't be a deflection, because that's not what Coriolis is.
It's the Earth rotating underneath.
No, it's the Earth rotating independently, imparting forces.
No, it's the Earth rotating underneath. If you was on a roundabout...
it's absolutely not.
It is. If you was on a roundabout and you throw the ball straight, it appears to deviate, but really it's still going in a straight line.
Yeah, but Coriolis force on Earth is not the Earth rotating underneath something. That is not the description of it. That is categorically wrong.
Okay, so with the football example, you say it's Coriolis force. So explain that without the Earth rotation then.
No, the Earth's rotation is what caused that, but the football travels in a straight line path. The kicker kicks it.
So the Earth rotated underneath.
Let me finish, please. Right, the kicker kicks the ball, so then it starts traveling from point A to point B. During that traveling from point A to point B, the Earth's rotation will impart a deflection on it because of conservation of momentum. It's not because the Earth rotates underneath it, it's because the Earth is now rotating independently from a freely moving object, meaning that it conserves its momentum from the original position that it was on. Coriolis is categorically not the Earth rotating underneath things in all cases. It is the fact that things conserve their momentum within a reference frame.
So basically what you just said was the Earth rotated underneath it.
No, I didn't. Please don't.
So we should see that all the time. That's what you're saying. You're saying it's Earth rotation, so therefore you're saying the Earth rotates underneath.
No, I'm not saying that. Please don't strawman me, Rachie. I'm not saying it's the Earth rotating. I'm saying underneath things, it's the Earth rotating independently of a freely moving object.
Which is rotating underneath things.
No, please don't strawman me. Independently, not underneath.
That's exactly what you're saying now.
I'm sorry, but is independently the same as underneath? No, they are separate words.
Yeah, independently, as in it's not on the ground, it's in the air, the earth rotates underneath.
No, the Earth rotates
Right.
independently of the freely moving object, not underneath.
So underneath it, not with it, underneath it.
Independently.
Independently, separately, independently, not together.
Yeah, but not,
Underneath it,
not
yeah,
necessarily
exactly.
it rotating underneath. That is not what imparts the forces. It is the fact that something conserves its momentum. So when the ball was kicked, it was in a particular place on the Earth that had one tangential velocity to the east. And then, as it travelled north,
FTFE.
as it
Sorry,
travelled...
I've muted him, and I've muted you
sorry.
as well. Sorry, guys, you were getting a little bit passionate there, but this was a timed round. So that was the 15 minutes, and of course we've got a lot more to talk about and a lot more things to say. And it can all come back out again in the next open discussion. But I'd like to actually turn to the second round, round 2. So it's going to be a reverse, obviously, of what happened before. So I'm going to unmute you both, and I believe you do have to then unmute yourselves again. So this time round, we're going to go to Rachie's 10-minute or up to 10-minute presentation, which would be her evidence for a flat Earth. So Rachie, you've got 10 minutes yourself now to show why the Earth is flat. Over to you.
Okay, is there any chance you could share a video for me?
Yeah.
So basically, it's a laser test, and it's Taboo Conspiracy 21 miles. So you can type in the Sea of Galilee flat Earth proof, and it'll come up.
Sorry, Sea of what?
Galilee. I've never heard of it. Galilee.
Got it. Don't take this off her time. Let me get the video up first.
Well, do you want to take this opportunity then to read out any super chats you've got?
I can't because I'm trying to get the video. I literally can't. It won't bring it up when I search Sea of Galilee, and I can't find it on this bloody channel. That's Great Salt Lake. Sea of Galilee. There we go. I've got it. I've got it. Yeah. Right. Start her time now, and I'll put her up full screen.
Cool.
You don't need to put me up full screen, just the video. I can't see the video on here, but it's basically just a laser test, and yeah, there is no curve. Can people see the video?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
Yep.
Are you playing the audio? So because he explains it in the video as well.
I can't just play someone else's full video. That's why I kind of talked over the gentleman physicist one. Could you explain it to me, please?
Oh, okay. So basically, I can't remember his height now because I haven't wrote it down because I was expecting you to play it, but I understand why you haven't done that. But basically, it's very low to the ground, and it's over 21 miles, and they're doing a laser test, and you can see the actual laser, the source of the laser, and you can see the reflection on the water as well. So it can't be due to refraction or anything like that, because you wouldn't be able to see the source of the laser for one, and for two, there wouldn't be the reflection on the water either, and that's basically steady. So that's where we're seeing the source of the laser, and you can see the reflection on the water.
Okay. Is that that's obviously your video evidence. Have you got anything else you'd like to say? You've got up to 10 minutes.
Well, I did ask in this, but I thought you said only one each, so I only brought one for each one, because obviously we were doing it in sections, weren't we, in the debate order. That's why I asked whether you could bring multiple, but I thought we could only bring one, so I only wrote one.
Yeah, you can obviously talk about it further or elaborate on it further. Anything else
I think
you'd
it
like to
speaks
add
for
to?
itself, really. 21 miles, no curvature. You know, you can see the source of the laser light. You can see the reflection on the water. You can't say that the reflection and the laser light, the actual source of the laser light, you know, got refracted over the curve. That's just ridiculous. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
Okay, so that's your evidence that the Earth is flat. You obviously had a little bit more time, but no worries at all. So over to FTFE then, up to 10 minutes to actually refute the claim and evidence that was just shown to you by Rachie 5 zeros.
Oh, wow. So I just want to start with her, with the final thing she said there, which was it can't be it reflecting, refraction over the globe. That's ridiculous, right? Was that your words there, Rachie? I don't want to.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah,
Ridiculous.
yeah. Right. So that is personal incredulity. Just saying it's ridiculous. That is simply just personal incredulity, because you've completely ignored the fact that refraction does exist, and that's what we expect refraction to do. Let's look at the figures, right? 21 miles, you said. So 21 miles. So if the Earth is a globe, as we say, that means for every 1 degree of curvature equals to 69 miles, right? So 1 degree is 69 miles, which means that 21, right, is less than a third of a degree. And that falls completely within what we expect refraction to be able to do. You also said that the laser was extremely close to the water, which is where you get the most refractive conditions, because that's where the highest change in temperature that happens. So you got the air next to the water is coldest, and as it moves up, it gets warmer. But the first couple of meters above the water, that change is greater than anywhere else, and that's called a lapse rate. And it's your lapse rate that gives you your instance of refraction, your coefficient of refraction. So the higher the lapse rate, the more refraction you can expect to happen. It goes back to Samuel Rowbotham doing the Bedford level test. He was extremely close to the water. When Wallace repeated it, he moved away from the water, and the refraction wasn't there. You couldn't see what he saw. So being closer to the water is going to give you the most refractive conditions. You also said that it can't be refraction because you can see the source of the laser and the reflection. Nothing about seeing the source of the laser and the reflection refutes the fact that it's refraction. Refraction will make you see whatever's there. Whatever the light is hitting, that's what you will see. And as refraction across water causes things to be lifted up higher, to be able to see the source of the laser and the laser is exactly what refraction predictions show us would happen closer to the water like that. I've shown evidence many times of lasers bending because of refraction. I can show it again. It's one of my most popular videos from my 20,000 subscriber celebration, where I showed Mick West's video to Rad Vlad, and he said that the laser was broken. Lasers absolutely bend with refraction. So that you can't use that as a definitive measurement, right? Because let's look at the measurement, right? There's no units used in the measurement, so it's not a scientific measurement. He doesn't say, oh look, here's the degree of curvature we didn't find or anything. He just said, oh, it's 21 miles, you can see the curvature. There's no actual units used for the measurement of flatness there. There's no significant digits to the measurement. 21 miles and what? Is it exactly 21 miles? What, there's no definition to what's going on. There's no margin of error analysis on anything that's happening. It's one of the least scientific experiments and measurements that you can rely upon, because it doesn't follow anything that science would require a measurement to have. For instance, using the correct tool. To measure curvature over water, a laser is not the correct tool, because a laser is affected by refraction. It's as simple as that. So yeah, I refute the fact that shows that there's no curvature, because it matches the prediction of refraction according to subject matter expert Andrew Young, Dr. Andrew Young, whose website you can go to and see his complete analysis of laser tests and why they can't measure the curvature of the Earth. So that's it, yeah. 21 miles, refraction, no problem.
Cool. Okay. Well, we're going to now go to up to 15 minutes of open discussion. Obviously, try and really stick to the topic now of, you know, the claim you've made, Rachie, that obviously that observation is solid evidence that the Earth is flat. So, Rachie, if you wanted to now say anything you wanted to say, or FTFE, you guys go for it. So up to 15 minutes.
Okay, well, you said refraction. You're going to need R for that.
Yeah, we've got R. That's no worries. We've measured R plenty of times. That's fine.
Just saying you got R doesn't mean you got R.
No, I'll just cite Wally's. Where's Wally's recent videos in response to Dearth, where he measured R quite conclusively. Or I could cite the measurements of Jesse Wazowski, a professional surveyor who measured the curvature of the Earth over a lake. Or I could cite any of the documents over on mctoon.net/R, where professional surveyors have time and time again measured R using surveying methods. There's many measurements of R. Just denying R exists doesn't make it go away. We still have refraction. The refraction that we see is what we expect. So we didn't talk about the radius of Earth, we talked about refraction, and you simply said it can't be refraction. Well, it can be refraction because that's what we expect refraction to do.
Can't be refraction because you're going to need R for that.
I just told you we've got R, and I just cited a bunch of measurements.
Yes, no, you did it. You just cited, oh, this person's got it, this person's got it, this person's got it. You provided absolutely nothing of R.
Would you like me to show the videos and the documents and everything that, or I could provide it
I'd like
in
you
the
to
chat?
provide evidence of R. If you're going to use refraction, you're going to need at least 7 R or 6 R.
Yeah, so if you go to mctoon.net/R, there is several documents there from professional surveyors that document the entire process of how they calculated the radius of the Earth. That's citation 1. Feel free to check that out at your own leisure. Citation 2 will be the webpage from the surveyor Jesse Wazowski. You can find him on Twitter with a link in his bio which goes straight to his website, where he shows his entire method for measuring the radius of Earth over a lake. Again, you can feel free to peruse that at your own leisure. That's my second citation. My third citation is, what was the other thing I said now? I can't remember. My third citation is the recent video by Where's Wally, specifically directed towards Dearth and his Bitcoin challenge, where he measures the radius of Earth using parallax measurements of the stars. So there's my 3 citations for you, Rachie. Feel free to look at them in at your own leisure.
Okay, when was they physical measurements? Because if not, then all you've got is optical measurements, and they are not sufficient evidence. So
I don't care if you don't think optical measurements are sufficient. Everyone else disagrees with you. You can't ignore the measurements just by going nuh-uh. You can't just ignore the measurements by going nuh-uh. We don't have a tape measure big enough to measure the circumference of the Earth. You use the correct tool for the job, as I said earlier. So we've got our. We don't need to worry about that. Yeah, I've just cited you a bunch of places where you can go and look at the evidence for R.
Where they measured optical illusions.
Have you got any evidence that optical illusions?
So optical illusions don't exist.
Have you got any evidence? Have you got any evidence that all the measurements that I cited are optical illusions and didn't do any controls for anything, which they absolutely did?
Well, yeah, it's optical, but you're looking over a distance. Things happen over a distance. You yourself claim refraction, that things happen, and we know on a things can change. Like you could see further on some days than you can on other days, and
that's why they have controls, Rachie. Yes, that's why they have effects, and they do it over days and days and get averages, and make the controls as good as possible. And also, when you're looking straight up at the stars directly, you get minimal refraction to do parallax measurements. There's many measurements that all get the same thing. So we've got measurements of R. That's absolutely fine. And the refractive again, we've got measurements of R. I don't care if you say we don't. I'm sorry. I'm going to ask the moderator to step in here. I have cited her several times the measurements of R, and she's simply going, no, we don't. So can you please?
Yeah. Well, can I just clarify, Rachie? So do you accept the existence of refraction?
Not what you think of as refraction. Do I accept things we can see further on some days than other days? Yeah. Do I accept that 7 over 6 R and refraction over a curve? No.
So would you agree that that refraction, or whatever you may, you know, I'm just labeling it refraction right now, would that be like measurable?
Probably not, no.
Yeah, Dr. Andrew Young would very much disagree. So would Isaac
disagree all he
Newton.
wants.
I mean, you know, the experts in refraction disagree with you. So I'm going to cite the experts in refraction. And in fact, Dr. Andrew Young has an entire website dedicated to what refraction would look like if the Earth was flat. As he's an expert in refraction, I'm going to say he knows what he's talking about. The refractive conditions that we see on Earth are what we expect if the Earth is curved. So we absolutely have R. I'm not going to accept you not owing the fact that we have R, because we have several measurements of it. Whether you accept them or not, they exist. They
are not measurements of them.
They absolutely are measurements. They are measurements because they have significant digits, they have units, and they have margin of error analysis, which makes them measurements whether you accept it or not.
Yeah, but then like all you do is claim, oh, we can see further today, or we shouldn't be able to see that from that height. Therefore, add extra digits onto the refraction. Hey ho, presto.
Yeah, we can measure refractive conditions.
No.
It's fine. We understand the different effects of refraction and how refraction is caused. So we can actually control for that if we know what we're doing. Again, I don't care if you don't accept them as measurements.
So you can
they are
control the
again.
atmosphere.
I don't care if you don't accept them as measurements. The entire scientific community accepts them as measurements. The definition of a scientific measurement accepts them as measurements. So therefore, we have measurements of R. We just have measurements of R you don't accept, which I don't care about.
Because they're not measurements of R.
Again, they are measurements because they have units, margin of error analysis, and significant digits. Therefore, they are. Therefore, they are measurements. Okay, so the fact that you say it's 21 miles. It means that it's not a curved Earth. No, I refute that. That is within the realms of what we expect under normal refractive conditions on Earth.
No, it's not. Can you
It
prove that?
absolutely is. Yeah, I can cite Dr. Andrew Young and his entire body of work, which makes him the world-leading expert on refraction.
Do the maths with 7 over 6R, see what it comes up with.
Again, I can cite the experts.
Okay, citing the experts doesn't do the maths with 7 over 6R.
Yeah, okay, I don't need to do the maths for you right now to know that refraction exists and does what we expect it to do.
1 second, my battery's a bit...
You didn't charge your phone beforehand. So nuh-uh is her response. Brilliant.
Yeah, I'm obviously trying to let you guys chat as much as possible there, but yeah.
Refraction exists, and it does what we say it does. We've demonstrated that refraction can bring things up from above a horizon. Therefore, what she shows is not definitive evidence that the Earth is flat. That's my position. I'll read some super chats while she's figuring out how to charge a phone. Why would you not charge a phone before coming? Right, we had one from Alison before he left, which was $5 Australian, and normal question, which I'll put to Rachie if I get a chance. Razek9, flat art tear drinker for 50 Nokias. Will Rachie be able to converse off her Creeping Warrior script and not go around in circles? So far, I'd say no. Brendan Cusketty, 50 Australian dollars. Thank you very much, dude. You sound a little under the weather, but I know you destroy her. I have had a pretty bad cold just at the end of it, but you know, a bit chesty right now. Screwy Louie, £5. See, there we go. Rachie's IQ is around 10 to the negative 17. Love your content, FTFE. Keep it up. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Brendan Cusketty for $5. Oh my god, just listening to the stupidity is so funny, it's painful. Stephen York, $7.99. Ask Rachie how she feels about being exploited. Anthony getting her to do squats on camera. Does she understand she's being used on so many levels? Yeah, I'm surprised that Sleeping Warrior's got any interest in her as she's not a child. Dan Robinson for £5 says, how does RGD work with centre of buoyancy versus centre of gravity when it comes to ships and submarines? It doesn't. P. Barnes, $10 Australian. Waiter, here's your bill, ma'am. Rachie, do you have any evidence that I'm in your restaurant? Waiter, what the fuck? Mark Troism, $5. Congratulations, Rachie. You now have made it as one of the finalists for Dunning-Kruger Prize. Steve6464 for $5. Wouldn't there be refraction on a flat Earth? Yes, but it would act very differently. Casper Rav, I'm sorry, I'm going to ruin your surname. Ravenhol, who's became a new member. Thank you very much. Alison for $2. I confirm R whenever I use my flight plans. Yes, you do, Alison. Hail Satan for $4.99. Please ask Sad Clown, Confused Clown to make an accurate prediction using Pancake World model. She would, but there isn't a model. Artist for $5 Canadian. Rachie, can you prove there's no R? What evidence do you have that proves there's no radius? Well, she's got that amazing nuh-uh. Folk Repairship Akashi's been a member for 8 months. Measurements are determined by peer review and scientific method, not your opinion, IQ 0. That's cherry picking by definition for Venti's sake. Mr. E-Man, $5 Rachie, where are your measurements of the Earth being flat? Yeah, exactly. Let's hope that she comes back. Why? If
I'm back.
Hey, there you go. Right, thank you. So I think we've covered everything that you said, right? Refraction exists. It matches the globe predictions for refraction. So
it does not match the globe predictions.
The globe predictions for refraction would disagree with you, of course.
You've got to have R for that.
Yeah, we have R. That's fine. I've told you that.
You say you've had R, and you cited some things, and I'll admit you cited some things, but
Rachel,
again, they're not measurements of R. Yeah, I'm just saying him now.
Can you explain what evidence do you have that the citations are wrong? You know, do you have yourself evidence or reasons to believe that the citations given are wrong? Can you refute those claims?
Yep, things disappear bottom up on a flat Earth, and basically you're looking through a theodolite and yes, they do, and you're looking through a theodolite and things, and as things get further and further into the distance, they get lower and lower, they converge with the horizon, and basically things start to disappear bottom up, and yeah, so that is not anything to do with Earth curvature at all.
Yeah, that doesn't refute refraction. Things don't disappear on a flat Earth for no reason bottom up.
It does, because you need R for that, and you don't.
Yeah, we got R. It's fine. It's fine. We've got R. We've measured it plenty of times.
No, you've just got a theodolite measurement, which
yes, we did. We've got
distortion.
plenty of measurements of R. Again, a measurement, according to science, is something that has units, significant digits, and a margin of error analysis. All the things I cited to you have those things. Therefore, they are measurements of R, just measurements that you don't accept because reasons.
But you didn't determine the cause of what those measurements was.
The people taking the measurements, okay, they take the measurements, and you don't.
They take the measurements. I agree.
Yeah, yeah. So they've taken the measurements, and they've measured that the Earth has a radius of what we expect it to be. No, therefore, they've measured the Earth's radius, and the fact that all these different methods, all of the different methods, the surveying methods, the measured methods using seismic activity, the methods used when you have to use the Haversine formula to calculate flight plans. Every method ever of measuring the Earth's rotation, from Eratosthenes to modern day measurements, get the same radius. Therefore, the radius of the Earth has been measured. It doesn't matter if you don't accept them. Asked and answered, that's the end of that discussion.
Okay, we'll have to agree to disagree.
No, not going to agree to disagree. Then I'd be wrong.
Yeah, if you want to end the discussion there, we'll start going round and round in circles. Then
yeah, no, that's fine. I'm just saying I'd agree with you, but then we'd both be wrong. I can't agree to disagree on something that you're simply wrong about. You are just wrong.
And I'd agree to disagree with you. I'd agree with you, but then I'd be wrong too.
Yeah, that's not how that works. Try a better comeback next time instead of just using my same one. Anyway, what's the next point, STST? What are we doing next?
Yeah, I mean, we'll sort of move on to the next part now. This is moderator's question time.
Yes.
So I'm going to go through. Rachel, I hope you did notice the message from earlier that we put on Discord. And it was kind of like 3 questions that I'm going to ask. FTFE is going to go first. So if you missed them, maybe write the questions down as I ask them and have a think about what you're going to say. You're not going to necessarily debate each other at the moment, but I'd like the audience to see your answers and how you would go about answering these questions. I did have a little help from a friend of mine called Deadly Dave, and he is in the chat.
Cheers,
we
Dave.
Ourselves actually, yep, Deadly Dave. We are starting up our own debate channel called Truth Debates. So I asked him, Deadly Dave's a really cool guy, mate. He actually debunked Simon Dan quite literally, because one of his only video, I think, on his channel, but it was about the vaccine and nanoparticles and all stuff I don't actually understand. But
Dan did get that quite wrong.
Yeah. So he kind of, so he's an intelligent guy. That's what I'm trying to say, and I want to thank him for giving me a fair kind of moderator's questions. So thank you, Dave. Right, so I'm going to go and I'm going to ask FTFE first. So Rachie, like I say, maybe write these down if you haven't got a note of them. So FTFE, what is your definition of evidence, and can you give me an example of what would qualify as evidence for your position?
Right. So evidence for me is anything that indicates something to be the case. And based on that, based on my definition, there is evidence that the Earth is flat at first glance. But evidence, it isn't final. Evidence is just something that suggests something. And there's levels of evidence, right? You know, there's, that seems to be evidence, and then, this is strong evidence based on experimentation. If you do an experiment and you get data that suggests a particular thing, then that's a lot stronger evidence than just saying, at first glance, that could be that. You might not know what you're talking about. So a bit of a long-winded answer, but evidence is something that indicates something to be something, if that makes sense.
Perfect. Okay, mate. Yep. Well, I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to ask the questions at the moment. I'd love the chat and obviously your debater to listen and think about what they would say. Maybe. Question 2. What would be required to falsify that evidence, and how would you design a test to do so?
Right. So, I mean, that kind of goes along the observation route, right? So if you saw, evidence of something, and you wanted to test if that evidence holds up, you form a hypothesis around it, and then you use that hypothesis to make a prediction. So, right, if my evidence, my observation, the evidence I'm getting is correct, then that means this is, going to happen, right? So then you find a way to test that prediction, which goes back to what I showed as evidence of the rotation of the Earth, right? If I come up with a hypothesis that the Earth is rotating based on evidence that I see, then to test that prediction, the Earth should be rotating at this speed, which means that at these latitudes we should have this force imparted onto a pendulum. You can do the maths and calculate that that's exactly what should happen, despite whether Rachie agreed with it or not. The maths says that should happen. So you can use the maths and physics to make a prediction, and then say, right, let's test the prediction and see if that happens. And then, at the end of that, you analyze the data you get and see if that supports your evidence.
Cool. Lovely. Thank you very much. And then just a little follow-up on that really is just, with that in mind, what evidence would falsify your position right now?
A measurement of the Earth being flat and non-rotating.
Okay. Rachie?
Hello.
Hello. So same questions to you. What is your definition of evidence? And can you give me an example of what would qualify as evidence for your position?
So evidence to me is basically something that shows the cause to the effect. So you do an experiment, you follow the scientific method, and you have an independent variable, you have a dependent variable. You have a hypothesis of what you believe is the cause of that, and then you wiggle the cause, and you basically have the independent variable, which is the supposed cause, and you see whether changing that independent variable in some way affects the dependent variable, and if so, then therefore you have evidence for it.
Okay. What would be required to falsify your best evidence, and how would you design a test to do so?
So to falsify, again, you just do the scientific method, and if you again you have the hypothesis and the independent variable, and if they wiggle the independent variable and the dependent variable didn't change, then obviously you know it's nothing to do with what you presumed was the cause.
Right. With that in mind, what evidence would literally falsify your position right now? What would be the one thing that would make you think, the Earth isn't flat, it's a globe?
A force line type experiment where you build a straight line, and if the water curves away from it, then you know it's, you know, a globe. If not, then obviously, you know, water's level, as we always say, and water's horizontal, and yeah, flat.
Okay, so I've now got a question for you each, and then we're going to go on to another little open discussion. And I'm sure, I think FTFE's got a couple more super chats to read out, so I'm sure we'll get them in soon, guys. But FTFE, can you provide me direct measurements of the surface of Earth?
Yes, absolutely can. I've cited many of them during this debate.
Okay, yeah. Rachie, same question to you.
He cited things, he didn't show anything, and they are just.
No,
you know.
sorry, that wasn't. Oh,
sorry, no rebuttal. Yeah, okay. So can I provide any of the
surface?
No, I cannot, except for maybe. Well, we'll go into that into the next evidence part, but basically direct measurements where we actually measure the surface of the Earth physically. No, I cannot.
Okay. FTFE, can you provide a working map of the Earth?
Yes, it's the globe.
Okay.
It works 100%, just to clarify, it's 100% accurate, and every pilot in the world uses the maps based on that accurate map and the Haversine formula to calculate their flight routes. So, you know, we know it's an accurately working map, which I've personally tested during my time in the Royal Navy by calculating full fuel consumption over distances predicted by the working map of Earth, the globe.
Perfect. So same to you, Rachie, can you provide a working map of Earth?
A working map of Earth? No, not a full working map of Earth, no, but neither can the globe. But obviously I'm not allowed to rebut, am I? So I can't rebut that, so what he says. So personally, a working map, no, but neither can he. But that's, yeah, okay.
Can.
Okay. So why would you say FTFE cannot provide a working map?
Because NASA have documents saying to treat it as flat and stationary for a start, and he said pilots use the Haversine formula, but NASA basically tells you to treat it as flat and stationary. And obviously you've got that. This to do, it's in the documents, and you've got that person that's meant to have sailed around Antarctica, and it was actually larger than the circumference of the Earth.
Well, we can go into this. We're about to go into a 15-minute open discussion, guys.
I'm going to write that down. Sorry, so you said NASA have documents that say that you have to treat the Earth as flat and stationary?
Yeah, to treat it as flat and stationary for pilots, yeah.
Document. I'm just writing that down because you know, I'm going to want you to substantiate that document.
Let's say assume it's flat and stationary is the correct word, sorry.
Say, yeah. So what's your claim, that NASA have documents that what?
I'd say to assume the Earth is flat and stationary.
Assume the Earth as... Okay, right, I'm going to have to see those documents. All right, cool.
Guys and girls, I'm just going to ask the chat a quick question. Who do you think, give me a one basically, FTFE went first, so we'll have a number one if you believe, you know, those sort of questions are asked. Who answered them better out of the two? Who at the minute are you thinking is, you know, got performing better?
Let me end the poll that's on there now, and I'll put up a new poll with that question on.
1 and 2. So who won the moderator's questions round there?
Who won the moderator's questions round?
I think that's a bit biased being that we're on FTFE's channel, but that's just my opinion.
I mean, they were fair questions.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Yeah, but your audience is going to be
The
biased. We know that.
question, but
Well,
that's
one's
the whole
me,
thing.
two's Rachie. I didn't put
The whole
names.
reason of a debate is to try and change people's mind in a way, you know, and have people open to maybe changing their stance. So we were just seeing if, you know, maybe things like that had happened. So what I'm saying now, that is the end of the moderator's questions. So I'm now happy to just let you guys have a chat. I'm sure there's, you know, things you both want to say and follow up with. I know you've both got a pen and pad there, so I hope you've got some good notes and good evidence against each other. Please try not to just answer questions with answers with questions with answers. It can just go round and round. And I notice it in the chat, so people notice it. You know, this is a debate, so you do have to come at it from the stance of, could I be wrong? You know, I believe, as a moderator myself, I'm trying to be as impartial as I can, but I am seeing some just complete and utter not trying to prove yourself. Think of even being wrong. Science is about being open, and it is always open to be wrong. But yeah, 15-20 minutes, guys. You go for it.
Rachie, I wanted to kind of carry on what we were saying about maps there, because I don't believe what you said debunks the fact we have a working map. Regardless of documents that NASA have, NASA don't decide what maps are, and the fact that we can test if the map is working then shows that it's working. And every time that we test the globe Earth map, it works and is used by navigation all day, every day by anyone that navigates. So how do we not have a working map if the map we have works?
The map you have doesn't work. You think it does, but it doesn't.
I've tested it. I've personally tested it, and it does work.
So you've been all around the supposed globe and tested all the distances?
I've been I've been in every ocean. I've been to not all the continents, but a lot of them. You know, I've tested personally that the map works, and anyone else ever that tests it, it works. Every pilot that plans his route using the Haversine formula and the globe map shows that it works. There is no occasions ever where the globe Earth map doesn't work. Therefore, we have a working map.
But you don't. Somebody travelled around Antarctica and they actually went like 3 times the circumference of the supposed.
Do you have the citation for that?
I don't remember his name. It's one of Eric's 200 proofs.
Yeah, I've debunked all 200 of those. So there's the Vendée Globe race every 4 years, which starts in France and then goes down to Antarctica and circumnavigates Antarctica and goes back to France. It's open to anyone that has a yacht. And every yacht is GPS tracked, so you can see where they are. And every time they circumnavigate Antarctica, they travel a distance between 14,000 and 16,000 nautical miles, which matches the globe prediction of sort of going around Antarctica. I've never seen any evidence of Eric Dubé's claim, apart from Eric Dubé saying it. There is no evidence that someone went around Antarctica and travelled 3 times the distance they should. It's just a claim, but there is literally thousands of voyages that circumnavigate Antarctica that show that Antarctica, to circumnavigate it, takes between 14 and 16,000 nautical miles.
But that's like tracking something on. You don't know that like data's real, do you? Let's be honest.
The people that are also traveling it know how far they're traveling. They can, see how fast they're going, and use things like that to calculate how far they've gone. And it's certainly not 43,000 miles, which it would be if you were having to travel the circumference of a ice wall ring. What they do is travel 14 to 16,000 nautical miles every single time. It's backed up time and time and time and time again. And it's not super secret. Anybody can enter it. And it's all matches what the globe says. These people that do it do not go 43,000 miles. They would know that.
Maybe, but...
Maybe, is that it?
Well,
this is empirical evidence that's repeated.
You say it's
thousands of
empirical.
times.
I don't see it as empirical. I see it as some data on a screen that basically then telling you.
Could you define empirical for me?
Something that's basically conclusive.
That's not what empirical means now. The fact that they measure these distances whilst they're travelling shows the distance that they are travelling. And again, it matches the globe predictions. Every time the globe map is used, it is correct. We do have a working map because it is used and it works. Therefore, it's a working map.
But it's not. It's just, you can change the coordinates on that map to any other map and basically change the coordinates and then end up getting a totally, not a globe.
Yeah, if you change the coordinates, absolutely you wouldn't get a globe. But if you follow the coordinates that are on the globe, it's a working map. I don't know why you'd want to change the coordinates to try and test something, because then it wouldn't be working. But Rachie, the globe map that we have, the map of the globe, it works because it's used all the time.
Well, it doesn't because you don't have curve.
The map works. We're not talking about curve right now. We're talking about the map of the globe Earth with the distances on it.
So the map doesn't have curve.
With the distances, we're not talking about curve right now. We're talking about the map.
Well, we are.
The
If the map has curve, we're talking about
the map
curve.
that has distances on it that include the curve. The map, it works 100%. And if the map that includes the curve works, then it goes to evidence towards us actually having curve. Of also all the evidence that I've shown earlier that you went at. So anyway, so yeah, we do have a working map. The next,
You say it works, but you've shown no evidence of that.
I've just actually I specifically cited my evidence of the Van der Globe race and the distances that they travel. Anyone can go to the website of the Van der Globe race and look at the distances that competitors travel. Anybody in the world that uses the Haversine formula is also testing the globe Earth map every time they do it. I've personally tested it by calculating fuel consumption over distance based on globe Earth measurements, and it works. So we do have, I don't care if this is the last thing I'm saying about it, we do have a working map, and you don't.
Okay, so let's just say that the distance was correct from France to Antarctica, as you're saying. How does that prove a globe?
Because it matches the globe map.
No, you've just got a distance. It's not.
The distance
not
is
exactly
the globe
evidence,
map.
is
The
it?
distance that the globe map, including the curves, says that it should be, is what you get, and the fact that they only go 14 to 16,000 nautical miles when it's going around Antarctica shows that it is not a massive ice wall around the edge. Right.
Okay, so that distance, can you basically say that distance cannot work on a flat Earth?
No, absolutely not. The distances would
Why?
Depending on which version of flat Earth you're using, which flat Earth are you using?
Well, let's just say, for example...
Cite me a specific flat Earth map and we'll test the distances, shall we?
Well, I'm just saying, let's, for example, say that there isn't a flat Earth map yet, but if there is a flat Earth map, but we just haven't...
Why isn't there a flat Earth map? We've had cartographers for thousands of years.
No, there are flat Earth maps. What I'm trying to say is, let's just say that we haven't got the most accurate flat Earth map.
Okay, all right, same question.
Are you saying that it couldn't work?
No, on none of the flat Earth maps that we have at the moment... or flat Earth maps, none of the flat maps that we have at the moment match distances travel. No. They have to be distorted.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that it can't happen on a flat Earth just because you've got some of the positions slightly wrong or something.
But the distances match a globe, so it couldn't be a flat Earth.
But you got to prove the globe to say the globe can even...
Oh, the measurements show that. Anyway, so you also said that NASA have documents that say you assume the Earth, or the pilots assume the Earth is flat and stationary. Could we have a look at those documents, please?
Sure, I'm sure if you just type in Google, NASA assumes flat and stationary Earth.
Oh, right, so I've got to get your evidence for you. Okay, fine.
Well, you want me to go and get yours from the measurements of the radius and things?
Oh, no, I've told you where you can find those.
And I've just told you where you can find NASA and that.
Yeah, but...
just type in Google, you'll find it, you should do.
But I don't think NASA are saying what you think they're saying. Right,
yeah,
let's
so
find...
assume flat and stationary.
So, which document particular are we talking about?
I'm not entirely sure. It's been a while since I've seen it.
So, you're just citing a NASA document that says they say the Earth assumes that it's flat and stationary.
More than one.
Not even saying which document it is. Right, I've got to literally do all the work.
Flat Earthers have done videos on this where there are multiple documents showing to treat it as flat and stationary, because
Yeah,
it
so
is
the paper that you're talking about is the deviation and the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model. We're going to have a little look at that, all right? Here it is. And we're going to look at the particular bit that you're talking about.
No, that wasn't the one that I was talking about.
Oh, no, it absolutely is.
No, it's not, because it didn't come up like that. It's always like these multiple pages and things now.
Yeah, this is multiple pages. As you can see here, there's multiple pages.
Yes, and like
But
I'm
this
saying,
is...
that's not mine. That's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, right, so it's one that says the things that you say, but it isn't your thing.
Like I said, flat earthers have done videos where there's multiple documents from NASA saying the exact same thing to treat it as
they
flat
all
and
say
stationary. So you're
roughly
just
this
probably
thing.
looking at one.
They all say roughly this thing, and we're going to have a look at what it says. The report documents the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft of constant mass flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth. The derivation makes no assumptions of reference trajectory or vehicle symmetry. The linear system equations are derived and evaluated along a general trajectory and include both aircraft dynamics and observation variables. So there's four things here in that paragraph that I can see that don't exist. Have you any idea what they are?
Well, it's kind of irrelevant to what they are, because at the end of the day, it's saying
No,
flat
it's
and
really not
stationary.
irrelevant. There's literal things in that paragraph that do not exist that they are talking about.
Okay, so why would they talk about and waste their time on things that do not exist?
You simplify things for modelling. That's what you do. But let's look at it and look
we
at the
are
things
flat
on
and
it.
stationary.
Let's look at the things that don't exist in this paragraph. So the report documents the derivation and definition of a linear aircraft model for a rigid aircraft. Right, rigid aircraft do not exist.
Right, so why are they writing about things that do not exist?
Simplifications for modelling.
What's the point if they don't exist?
Because you simplify for modelling, and when you simplify things, instead of modelling an aircraft that has all the movements that an aircraft normally has, the bendiness of the wings, the flexiness of the hull, instead of modelling those things which would complicate matters, you in this case, assume a rigid aircraft to see what would happen, before you then maybe model more complicated versions by adding in turbulence and wind and bendiness of aircraft. Right, so rigid aircraft, that's one thing in this paragraph that doesn't exist. The next thing is directly after. Rigid aircraft of constant mass. Aircrafts do not have constant mass, at least ones that use fuel, because you start with a certain amount of fuel, you use that fuel to keep flying, you lose mass of the aircraft. So that's two things so far that do not exist in this paragraph. The next things that I would say don't exist are flat, non-rotating Earth. But as they've already said that two things don't exist, you cannot use this paragraph to say, well, that means that this is fact. Because this is just talking about modelling. And when you model things, you simplify to make it easier. You remove extraneous variables because you do not need them. And having a rigid aircraft of constant mass makes it simpler to do the modelling. Assuming that the aircraft is flying over a flat, non-rotating Earth makes it simpler to do the modelling because the aircraft flies in the same reference frame as the rotating Earth. So it makes sense for simplification, for modelling purposes, to assume things that are simpler instead of using the more complicated things. And all the NASA documents are of a similar ilk. They are all simplification for modelling purposes that always specifically mention things that do not exist in the physical world, like rigid aircraft of constant mass.
And like the heliocentric model.
No, it didn't mention the heliocentric model in there, so please don't.
No, but what I'm trying to say is if they are talking about things that don't exist, as you claim, then they also talk about the heliocentric model that doesn't exist.
Did they talk about the heliocentric model in a paper that talks about modelling a rigid aircraft? Was the heliocentric model in there anywhere? Or do they have?
No, but what you're saying is that
do they have papers of the heliocentric model where they then tell you to assume things for simplification purposes? No, they do not.
Probably. But what you're saying is that they talk about things that don't exist in that case, and then basically what's saying they can't talk about things that don't exist in other cases.
It depends on what the paper is. And there may be some cases where they simplify certain aspects of the heliocentric model to do certain modeling aspects. But that doesn't mean that the things they remove from it, you know, are part of the heliocentric model. You simplify for modeling. But the entire purpose of me bringing up that paper was because you said that NASA assumed the Earth, well, the first of all you said NASA say the Earth is flat and stationary, but then you changed it.
So they assume that
that's flat and stationary. Like I said, you changed it to NASA assume that the Earth is flat and stationary. Well, yes, but in the same paper, they also assume that aircraft are rigid and have constant mass, things that aren't real. Therefore, the paper does not do what you say it does, and certainly does not debunk a working map.
If you were flying around a globe, you wouldn't be able to treat it as flat and stationary.
I mean, physics disagree, of course.
No, physics would not disagree. If it's rotating and it's a ball, then it's nothing to do with nothing at all similar to flat and stationary.
Oh, it depends on reference frame, right? Have you got
just
any... Sorry, yeah.
I'm trying to understand as moderator why that is of significance if it's exactly what, say, the heliocentric model would predict is you wouldn't feel the spin and you wouldn't notice the curve, you know, in those moments. So why, I'm trying to find out why that is evidence that the Earth is flat and stationary, if you know what I mean, by the, you know, assume. But that why is that evidence that it is flat and stationary?
Because if it was rotating and if it was a ball, you wouldn't be able to assume it was flat and stationary.
For modelling purposes, yeah, you can.
One's moving, one that isn't moving. One's flat, one's a ball. They're totally different things.
Correct, but for modelling purposes, for what the aircraft experiences, to simplify it, you can treat it like that, because when an aircraft is flying, when an aircraft is flying over the Earth, it's in the same reference frame, right? So the Earth isn't rotating separately to it. So for the aircraft, the Earth is, you know, in the same reference frame. You know, motion isn't absolute, so you know they are moving together. And also because the aircraft keeps its level in the air due to pressure bands and nothing to do with the curve, it doesn't matter if there's a curve or not. So for the aircraft, you can make these assumptions because that's physically what it experiences when it's flying on a globe because of reference frames and the way that it uses the atmosphere to maintain its lift and thrust.
When you say the airplane's in the same reference frame as us, so therefore it doesn't need to, like, you know, adjust for those things. Yeah. Well, what about the pendulum? Is that not in our reference frame too?
No, because the pendulum does not use the atmosphere to fly. I mean, everything's in all reference frames all the time, of course.
Okay, but no. Again, you'd still have to base it on a ball and a rotating ball at that. You wouldn't be able to assume flat and stationary because... I
mean, the document that you just cited disagrees with you, of course.
Well, it's going to be easier to go against, well, with the rotation than it would be a go against it, which again is another...
Why would it be easier to go against it than with it?
Well, imagine you was on a treadmill or one of them things at an airport where there's a long, like, escalator treadmill thing. You stand on one of them, it's going to be easier for you to go the way that it's moving than it is for you to go the opposite way.
Yeah, but airplanes don't use treadmills to move. They use the atmosphere, which rotates with the Earth.
But it would still be harder to go one way than another. It's like you walk
Why would it be
surface.
if the atmosphere is if the plane's using the atmosphere that rotates with the Earth? That's what the medium it uses so that it can go anyway. So it's not like flying. It's not lifting up and then the Earth's rotating under it, meaning that it's going to be harder to go, you know, with the rotation than against the rotation than with it. That's not how it works. The atmosphere is rotating with the Earth, and the plane is using that atmosphere to do what it does. So the only distances you get going east and west is generally due to trade winds and stuff, and maybe slight variations due to yacht VOS, because you ought to be increasing or decreasing weight, but not like massive amounts. But you get the differences that you expect, but you certainly do not make it a whole bunch harder to go against the rotation than with it. That's just not how it works, and frankly your ignorance of flight physics doesn't change this.
It would be the same if you was on the ground. If you're on the ground and you imagine the ground is moving and you're moving with the ground because you're on the ground. If you imagine that was a
are you saying
treadmill,
it's easier to drive east than it is west?
it'd be easier to go one way than it would to go another, yeah?
Right, so you're saying that if I was to drive west, I would use less fuel than if I was driving east? Because that doesn't
Probably.
happen. It really doesn't happen.
Yeah, but that's the thing, Amy.
My dad is a lorry driver, and his route goes from Bristol to London and back like 3 or 4 times a day, right? And he does not use a different amount of fuel depending on which way he's going. Debunked.
But like I'm trying to say, if you was on the ground...
treadmill. Sorry.
Yeah, but if you gotta imagine it like a treadmill. Imagine you was
You
on the
don't,
ground.
because that's not right.
Yes, but you do. So imagine you're on the ground, yeah? It's the same as imagining you're on a treadmill. The ground is moving, the treadmill is moving. You stand on the treadmill moves with you. You stand on the ground is meant to move with you. Therefore, if you was on a treadmill and you walked the opposite way...
You've got 2 different moving bits there, right? You've got the ground to the side of the treadmill, and you've got the treadmill. So, in this example, where is the the moving and not moving ground? If you're comparing it to Earth. Because you've only got one thing, and Earth and everything on it are all moving at the same speed, right?
Yeah, and that's what I'm trying to say.
So it doesn't make it harder to go one way or another.
Yes, it does.
If you are on a train, right, that's going 200 to 300 miles an hour, it's not harder to walk to the back of the train than it is to walk to the front.
Maybe.
It's not. I'd have to hop and use a stick, but I've done it when I could walk, and trust me, it's certainly not more difficult, depending on how many beers you've had, I guess.
Well, I'm going to have to test that out. I don't know. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I suggest you do. That was the main thing I wanted to bring up about the last few things you said. I mean, the Van der Globe race completely debunks your nonsense about Antarctica, and NASA say the Earth's a globe in space, so citing them saying anything else is simply the fallacy of stolen concept.
Yeah, but you're saying that so what, you're allowed to cite them for one thing but not another?
No, because I understand what a modelling thing is, and nowhere in that paper does it say the Earth is flat and stationary. It says, if you're modelling this aircraft to figure stuff out, let's make some simplification assumptions. That's what it says. Nowhere in the paper does it say that the Earth is flat and stationary, and you will never, ever, ever find NASA saying the Earth is flat and stationary. What you will find NASA saying many, many, many times is that the Earth is a rotating globe in space.
And you don't find it amazing that all the ancient cultures had it as flat and a dome over the top, but then suddenly NASA's got this ball?
Cool. So where are the ancient cultures now?
Well, obviously gone, ain't they?
Yeah, so they were really smart, huh?
Well, we all have to go eventually.
Yeah, but cultures that are really smart kind of tend to keep going. And NASA didn't invent the globe, right?
Well, it depends, don't it? I learned Christopher Columbus, as I told you.
This is something you said that confused me. I was never told and never heard of Christopher Columbus discovering the Earth was a globe. It's simply something I don't know what school you went to that told you that, but it's something I've simply never heard before. But you say all ancient cultures, blah, blah, blah. That isn't true, because Eratosthenes thought the Earth was a globe 2,500 years ago, and there's been many cultures
throughout history. That's what they say now.
I mean, Eratosthenes did think that. It's in his books that he wrote, when he calculated the circumference of the Earth. And there's many cultures throughout history that thought the Earth was a globe. So what ancient cultures thought is kind of irrelevant to the fact that we can go to space and have a fucking look.
Well, you say you can, but you can't provide any evidence of that.
Sorry, did you say I can't provide evidence that we've been to space?
Yeah. CGI you can provide. You can't provide actual evidence.
So they had CGI in 1969?
Yep, they did.
They had CGI in 1942, did they?
Well, they had Wizard of Oz and things, are they? All these special effects they could do in that. They don't
In 1942.
They don't need exactly CGI to fake things. It can be special effects.
So in 1942, they used special effects to fake space and Earth as a globe. In 1972, you're saying that they faked this with the technology that existed in 1972.
Does that even look like a 1972 photograph to you, to be honest?
It comes from like an actual, well, they're not called negatives, they're called something else, but whatever the camera uses to take it, it comes from a physical camera. So this is exactly what a physical camera, a Hasselblad camera actually, with I think an 80mm lens, taken on a physical film, developed in a dark room. That's what you got. The only difference, the only thing they've done to this picture is, I'll show you. So when they took this picture, it was actually like this. That was how, the only thing that's been altered with this picture is the fact that when they took it, they saw the South Pole at the top because of their orientation. So although we normally see it, you know, round the right way, round this way, that's the only alteration that's ever been done to this picture. This is a picture taken with a physical camera, from space. And there's, to back it up, there's another one. I've got the one from 1969 that was a bit more low res. And of course we've got, you know, pictures taken in the last 10 minutes from Himawari and stuff. But
all fake.
Not fake. You know, Where's Wally again did actually a bunch of videos showing that it's real-time data that works perfectly. So yeah, here's the negative that is in a museum of that the picture I've just shown you. So you can actually go and look at this negative that's in a museum.
I believe it's not actually a negative, is it?
Whatever it's called, it's, you know, it's basically a negative, but they've got a different name for it. I'm not sure of the exact name. But here's another one that was also taken with a Hasselblad camera, slightly lower res. This one was 1969. And of course, they sent rockets up in 1942 and saw
all looking completely different.
Yeah, different cameras exist, though. You realise that?
Yeah, I do. They don't change the image like that, though.
But depends. If you take an image with a camera that's designed to see certain wavelengths of light, it's going to look pretty damn different, right?
Can't say I've used one of those cameras, so I can't really say.
Yeah, but well, whether you've used them or not, they are going to look different. But anyway, yeah, don't tell me there's no evidence of us going to space, because there's billions of bits of evidence that we go to space. Just saying it's not evidence doesn't stop it being evidence. Because pictures and videos are definitely evidence.
Yeah, but you're showing me a picture from somewhere that can't exist.
You say it can't exist, but we took a picture from there.
Yeah, but it can't exist, because if it did exist, then all the gas would escape into the vacuum.
No, it wouldn't. That's you not understanding gravity, so it's fine.
So if you put gas in a vacuum, it doesn't expand to fill the space?
If there was just gas in a vacuum, right, it would just sit there, okay? If there is gas going from a pressurized area to a vacuum, it will fill that vacuum. However, there is also forces that can act on the gas, and as there is apparent forces acting on the atmosphere, it stops it filling the void. Space vacuums, they don't suck, all right? The only thing that's sucking in space is anything with a gravitational acceleration. So you guys have actually got it backwards. What would happen is any gas in space will go towards something with lots of mass. That's why they call Jupiter the vacuum cleaner of the solar system, because its giant mass vacuums up a bunch of shit that could be smashing into us.
But if you could show gas in a vacuum where it's not filling the vacuum, then you would have done. None of you have ever done that.
Okay, I'll just do it right now. There we go.
No, I mean on Earth, none of you have ever got a vacuum.
We don't say that should happen on Earth, because
most of the
things on Earth are, you know, everything on Earth is being affected by Earth's gravitational acceleration, right?
Okay, so let's say for a minute that gravity exists and everything on Earth is being affected by gravity. If we had a vacuum and we put gas in that vacuum, it should sink to the bottom because of Earth's gravity, and then you should have a layer of gas at the bottom with vacuum at the top.
Can we just have a round of applause, sorry guys, and in the chat as well, that we've gone way over now, an hour and a half, without gravity being mentioned. So everyone, woo, 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 woo. And that was my main mission for the evening. And I'm so glad of that. But yeah, feel free now.
To answer her question, though, yeah, you put gas in a container that was a vacuum, and that container now has a gradient of pressure with more at the bottom and less at the top when you're on Earth.
But you should be able to have a vacuum, like Action Lab, for example, should be able to get a vacuum, put some gas in it, and then however long it takes, you should be able to see the gas at the bottom, and then have a vacuum at the top. And you all
it wouldn't be a vacuum at the top. You just strawman what you should expect to happen, of course, because you don't understand physics. What you would expect to happen is for that if you put gas on Earth in a vacuum container, the gas is going to fill that vacuum container, but in that vacuum container at the bottom there's going to be a higher amount of the gas than there is at the bottom. It doesn't mean there's going to be a vacuum at the top, but there's going to be a lower pressure at the top of that container than there is at the bottom, because any gas on Earth, in a container or not, tends to have a gradient of pressure, higher at the bottom, lower at the top. And
so you could have a gradient of pressure. Okay, so you could have a gradient of pressure, denser at the bottom, less dense, less dense, less dense, to vacuum. Can you do that in a vacuum?
But space isn't actually a vacuum, so we're not saying that there's
ever a vacuum. Okay, well, can you do it to the best vacuum you can get on Earth?
Well, we don't have anything big enough for that, so probably not. No.
Well, it doesn't really matter. Like, just so long as there's mainly a vacuum.
It does matter because we don't have something big enough to put gas into it and have loads at the bottom and a vacuum at the top. You would have to have it the same height as Earth's atmosphere for the gradient to show that. You would, because it depends if you put the pressure at the bottom. But if you were to fill a vacuum chamber with gas when it's on Earth, it's going to fill that vacuum chamber as much as it can, but with more dense at the bottom and less dense at the top. If you then made that vacuum chamber as big as the atmosphere, up to the stratosphere on Earth, then go up all the way in that vacuum chamber, there would be a very, very low amount of gas at the top of that vacuum chamber. But of course, we don't have vacuum chambers that big. But we can absolutely demonstrate that the further up you go, the lower the pressure gets until it's practically a vacuum. We're not saying that you guys can't go, well, it would escape into this vacuum, because it doesn't. We've demonstrated that up there, there is a practical vacuum, not a perfect vacuum, but we've demonstrated the further you go up, there is a practical vacuum, and the gas does not go from the higher to the lower pressure. It just does not happen. So then you should be
able to replicate that, and you should be able to get a vacuum.
Why should you be able to replicate it on Earth? Where in science says that you should be able to do that?
Me, moderator. You know what I mean? Right, so let's say we have a vacuum, meter by meter by meter, so a meter cube basically, and we put gas in it. But we only put enough gas in it to fill the volume of quarter of it, or to fill it half of it, not the full vacuum, not the full volume amount. Then therefore, when you put that gas in there, the gravitational acceleration that you claim to be there should pull down the gas. The gas should half fill the vacuum if you only fill it with half the volume of the vacuum.
That's strawmanning.
How is it? How is it?
Because it's just going to be a lower pressure with a gradient.
So gravity's not pulling all those molecules down then, is it?
It's pulling all of them down, and that's why there's a pressure gradient with higher at the bottom, because each molecule is being pulled down on top of the other one.
Exactly. So if we didn't fill the vacuum with the whole volume of the vacuum, and you only filled it with a quarter to half of the vacuum volume, then all of it should be pulled down on top of each other, so they're all, lining up like.
No, you just have a lower pressure overall.
No, because they should all be pulled down on top of each other, like you're saying, and therefore leave a vacuum at the top.
Yeah, but they're not being squished together as much because there's less pressure. No matter how much pressure there is,
gravity.
No matter how much pressure there is, there's still going to be a gradient where they're being pulled down on top of the other. But if there's more pressure, they get squished together more. But it's still going to be more at the bottom and less at the top.
Squished together more at the bottom and none at the top, or hardly.
No, not none at the top, but less at the top. You are strawmanning what we expect.
No, I'm not.
Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You are strawmanning what we should expect.
Stacking oranges. Imagine that all the atoms of all the molecules of the air are oranges, and you pile them all on top of one another. That's what the gravity should be doing, according to you, pulling everything down, so it should be stacking them all on top of one another.
And that's what it does.
Until you're left with none at the top because it's all stacked them all down on top of each other.
No,
and
no,
so
none at the top, no.
You can only fill half the volume, remember? So they're all stacked on top of each other until half the volume, and then half the volume at the top should be vacuum.
You can't fill something with half a volume of gas. That's not how it works.
Well, if gravity's pulling them down, you should be able to.
Well, no, gravity will create a pressure gradient with more at the bottom and less at the top.
But it should be pulling them all down.
Right, we're going around in circles here. No, it shouldn't. You're wrong.
Well, then gravity debunks them.
No, it's not.
Sorry, guys. I'm seeing this is getting a little bit one-sided as to FTFE having to defend himself here a little bit. Is there an alternative, Rachie, to gravity?
Yeah, RDD.
No, that doesn't work.
Can you explain
Yes,
how?
it does.
Can you explain how, say, RDD accounts for the downward bias that we have on a?
There is no downward bias. It's basically, we live in a medium of air. No, there's not. We live in a medium of air. Most things are denser than air, therefore most things fall in air. Some things are less dense than air, therefore some things rise. If we lived in a medium of, like, liquid mercury, for instance, and we could breathe in liquid mercury, you would see a lot more things rising and going up. Would you then tell me there's an upwards bias?
No, there's a downward acceleration that tends to cause a bias on Earth that we see.
But there's not a
And that
downward
downward
acceleration.
acceleration is what causes buoyancy.
And you say there's a downward acceleration, but then when I ask you about the gas in the vacuum, you say that it's not pulling them all down. There's some
It is, that's why there's a gradient. I just told you that. Please don't go around in circles.
I'm not, but I'm just saying that there wouldn't be none at the top if that was the case.
Okay, straw manning what we expect doesn't change what we see.
But that is what you expect in your model.
No, not according to FG equals GM1M2 over R squared, which is, you know, what kind of our model says.
Which is everything getting
You've just strawmanned our model again, Rachie. Please don't strawman what we expect to see.
It's not a straw
So
man.
let me debunk relative density disequilibrium for you right now. So you say that the acceleration and everything that we experience is due to the difference in density alone, right?
Yes, and can be mathematically and experimentally proven.
Okay, so please explain to me why. If I get a bag of marbles, right, that's got 2 marbles in, these marbles are the same density, and then I get another bag of marbles that's got 20 marbles in, still the same density, and I put these 2 bags on a seesaw. Why one is lower than the other? Why did one have a bias to go down to the other? Because, and I want to quote your words here, what you just said, it's all to do with relative density disequilibrium that can be experimentally and mathematically proven. How does relative density disequilibrium explain the fact that something with the same density went down more than something with the same density?
Easy, because one, the seesaw at that specific moment in time with the experiment, whatever you want to call it, that you've set up, is not measuring or determining or showing the difference between the densities. It's showing the difference between the weight. And you get weight from relative density disequilibrium. So again, it's still RDD.
Wait, you said it's all to do with density, though. Where does weight come in?
And I just told you that I've just told you weight comes from RDD.
So how does the relative density disequilibrium explain the difference in weight between 2 bags of marbles of the same density?
Because obviously you have to take into account the medium it's in as well. So you do the density of the object minus the density of the medium times the volume, because volume is important, because obviously we're doing the weight here, not just the directionality, but the weight. So therefore the volume of the mass obviously comes into account. So you've got the density of the object minus the density of the medium times the volume times the disequilibrium rate, and that will give you...
Sorry, disequilibrium rate, what's that?
It's basically the rate of acceleration due to disequilibrium in a vacuum.
What is that?
I just told you.
Yeah, but what is it?
The rate of disequilibrium.
Which is what?
Disequilibrium, so, okay, the uneven distribution of mass is basically...
No, I'm asking for you. What is the acceleration rate of this disequilibrium?
The acceleration of disequilibrium in a vacuum is 9.81 meters per second.
Why does it change based on where you are on Earth?
Because there are many other factors and effects and influences that can obviously affect the acceleration rate.
So it's not just density disequilibrium, it's other factors as well?
It's density, well, it's what you can rule out at that specific moment in time. If you can rule out other things, then obviously you might get a slightly different number, but it's not going to affect it actually that much.
But there is a noticeable difference in the acceleration rate based on where you are on Earth. For instance, if you stand at the top of a mountain with a bunch of extra mass underneath you, you increase your gravitational acceleration, well, which you call RGD acceleration. But if you go to the poles, where on Earth there would be less mass underneath you, you increase your acceleration rate, which is what we expect. Also, you can change the acceleration rate by altering your centrifugal acceleration. How does relative density disequilibrium explain that?
Relative density disequilibrium explains it by having other effects. It's the same as though you've got the magnetic and the electric field effects changing around the Earth. Do you know what I mean? Things in different places change. They're not all the same every location. So obviously there's going to be some slight variations. And again, if you want to say that that's due to gravity and not RDD, then you're going to have to show me a gravimeter or something of that kind, sitting in the same location and doing it 100 times in a row and showing the exact same result.
So what you are doing right now is practicing pseudoscience by creating unrealistic... Yeah, no, absolutely you are. By creating unrealistic expectations of what science should be able to do. That is one of the fundamental principles of... I'm talking. That is one of the that is one of the fundamental principles of pseudoscience. I'm not going to believe it until I see it being done 100 times in front of my eyes. That, Rachie, is practicing pseudoscience.
I'd just like to say science is repeatable, yeah? And demonstrable. So it has to be repeatable. If
yes,
it's not
science is repeatable and demonstrable,
you're
but
saying,
nowhere in science does it say you have to do it 100 times in front of my eyes for it to be right. That is creating unrealistic... That is creating unrealistic expectations, which is pseudoscience. You, Rachie, are practicing pseudoscience.
Not asking you to repeat an experiment is not pseudoscience now. Repeatability is science. If you have a problem with that, then obviously you have a problem with science.
I didn't say I've got a problem with repeatability, but demanding that it be done 100 times in front of your eyes before you accept it is creating an unrealistic expectation of something, and that is pseudoscience.
So me wanting to see evidence and repeated evidence that is basically accurate and repeatable.
Yeah, because you're creating your own unrealistic expectations.
You're interrupting me. I didn't interrupt you, did I?
You did. I had to shut you up several times.
No, that's the thing though, ain't it? If you go back through this debate, you'll see you talking a lot, you keep talking, I go to say something.
Yeah, because I'm defending while you're presenting no fucking evidence of anything.
And I'm trying to defend now, but you won't let me. So what I'm trying to say is science should be repeatable.
On you go.
Yeah, so science should be repeatable.
One at a time. Rachie, please, let's just take some deep breaths, both of you. I know this is passionate.
I just want to have my say, do you know what I mean? I'm trying to have, I've let him have his say and then he
Rachie, you're over talking me. I'm trying to make it as fair as possible for everybody.
Yeah, but I don't think you am really being fair.
Rachie,
I'm being honest with you.
Rachie,
I don't think you are being fair.
Rachie, come on, he's the moderator. Listen to him, please.
I'm the moderator.
Yeah, and I don't think he's being fair.
I am trying to be as fair as I possibly can, and that did get to the, you're not children, I'm not going to just stop you every time you're talking, but it did get to the point where it was just, it was like two parrots, and nobody could hear a word that anyone was saying. Basically, that's all I'm trying to get at. So just let each other talk, and it's the same to FTFE when I said
apologies.
Both of you take a deep breath. So, Rachie, FTFE, go for it, but
Sorry, okay, Rachie, please finish what you were saying. I won't interrupt you.
So you're saying I'm practicing pseudoscience, practicing something to repeat it many times, not just saying, here you go, here's an experiment that was done once or twice. Because I want an experiment done repeatedly 100 times where it shows the exact same result every single time, so that I know it's conclusive because it's showing the exact same result every single time. How can you claim that I am saying that is pseudoscience? Pseudoscience will be doing it as a one-off and being like, there you go, it's done. I'm asking for it repeatable where it shows the same thing every single time. That should be science.
Yeah, and it can be repeated, but your personal expectations of it having to be done 100 times in front of your eyes before you accept it as fact, that is an unrealistic expectation and is one of the very definitions of pseudoscience. If you want to do that specifically, then you go ahead and do that. But you cannot expect somebody else to go and set up an experiment for you to do something 100 times for no reason when it's already been done many, many times. If that is your own specific standard of evidence, then the onus is on you to go and get a gravimeter and do that yourself. But to demand science provide that for you is pseudoscience.
So what you're saying is that they haven't done this and tested and verified it. Thank you.
No, it's been done many times. There's industries that are based upon it.
Well, then you should have the evidence which shows me it being repeatable in the same situation, not where you've moved it and then there's a different acceleration, in the same situation. Because what I'm trying to get at is if you've got it in the same position, in the same situation, nothing's changed, and you do it 150 different times, and then there's a variation, there's a difference, then you cannot go and say that if you change it to another location and you've got a difference, that it's because you've changed it to another location. When if you had done it 100 times in the exact same location and you would have got different variations, then you can't basically say it's some other cause. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Yep. So again, if that is your own personal standard of evidence, that's fine. That's your personal standard of evidence, which means the onus is on you to find that evidence and test it. It's not on anybody else who's done experiments before and confirmed that gravimeters do what they do by million-dollar industries using them to detect oil and minerals under the ground, so they know they work. So science has no responsibility to you to set up an experiment and do something 100 times in front of your eyes. If that is your own personal standard of evidence, then it is your responsibility to go and get that evidence. The experiments have been done on gravimeters. That's how we know they work. And you can guarantee that they weren't just done once and they went, yeah, that'll work. Because otherwise they wouldn't be able to do what they do and detect minerals and oil and stuff with such accuracy, like to the bloody millimeter in the Earth's surface. So if your personal standard of evidence is to see a gravimeter set up 100 times, registering the exact same thing, then that's up to you to go and do it. And just saying it hasn't been done, therefore I'm not accepting it, is pseudoscience. Let's move on to the next bit of the discussion.
Can I just say, if I did do that and it showed different variations so that over the 100 times, then what?
Well, then you could publish your research and it could go through for peer review and people could try and recreate your results.
Okay, but I'm just saying basically you claiming that a gravimeter or something is evidence. I can't really accept that as evidence unless you show it to be accurate.
Again, your personal standards of evidence is irrelevant to what science cares about.
Well, I would also bring up the Russian borehole, and now they got everything wrong in that, and then you say that they can determine what's underneath, but then they got everything wrong in that.
Did they use gravimeters to detect what was underneath the Russian borehole?
I'm not sure what they used, but I know they got everything wrong.
Right, okay, so completely irrelevant non sequitur there.
So what did they use then?
I don't know, but you just...
So how can you say it's a non sequitur? Maybe they
because you don't even know what is there, and you brought it up.
Neither do you.
And if neither of us know what is there, then it is not relevant to this discussion.
But the point is that they got whatever was wrong. They got whatever they thought was underneath wrong.
And were they using the thing that we were just talking about?
Maybe there was, maybe there wasn't.
Well, until you find out for sure, don't bring it to this conversation.
Well, whatever they was using, it was wrong, wasn't it? So
who cares? I'm not talking about that, and I don't even know if they used a gravimeter, so it is irrelevant to this conversation.
I'll find out what they was using, then
well, that actually is nearing the end of the full debate. What we're going to offer now to both debaters is basically like a 5-minute roundup. And what I'd like them both to think about is obviously the evidence you've both presented, and a reason of debate, like we were saying earlier, is to maybe consider your stance. You know, it's a changeable opinion, changeable look upon the way you perceive evidence. And I just hope that people watching the debate and the debaters just do take that from it even, and maybe the next time they debate and just kind of look at it and it's not all about attacking the argument, but also presenting evidence for your claim. And that's to both of you. That is to both of you. So I'm going to say FTFE first, actually, if he wanted to do like a little roundup and anything he may have learned from the evening.
Rachie's welcome to go first. It's up to you. I don't mind.
Well, I did think we had one more piece of evidence, as I had one more thing written down, but I don't know whether that's all right to bring that up or not, because I thought we had one each before, like when you wrote it down, you said there was debate going.
Well, I mean, I guess that's what the open discussion was for, but we seem to get stuck on points that you just couldn't agree with.
Well, I mean, I've still got 10-15 minutes if you guys are up for it.
Yeah.
But like I say, I'd still like you both to do a nice little roundup and like kind of, you know, explain your final position. But if FTFE has got time.
Well, let's spend 5 minutes. Of just, what is your next bit of evidence, and we'll quickly go over it. And
it's just 3 questions basically.
Right. So your evidence
yes or no
is 3
questions, pretty much.
So your evidence for flat Earth is 3 questions, right?
Pretty much, yeah.
For questions for me, or?
Yep, questions for you. Yeah.
Okay. So your evidence is questions for me. Yeah. Cool. Go ahead.
So number 1 would be: are sextants used by mariners to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and the celestial object?
Yes.
Okay. Number 2, are sextants used to obtain elevation angles from your position to celestial objects?
Generally, yes.
Okay. And number 3, can you obtain an elevation angle from a curved adjacent?
You don't use a curved adjacent with sextants, so I don't understand the question.
The question is, can you? So you agreed that you can use sextants to successfully navigate using the relationship between the Earth's surface and the celestial object. You
Absolutely,
agreed,
yes.
You agreed that sextants are used to obtain the elevation angles from your position to the celestial
Yes.
object. So the third question is, can you obtain that elevation angle from a curved adjacent? Yes or no?
You don't need to use a curved adjacent. So again, I don't understand the question. When you are sighting, you don't sight along the curvature, the surface of Earth. You sight to the horizon, or you can use a bubble sextant, or you could even use like a reflection on a mirror or a bit of water on the ground. You don't need to sight to a specific thing. But you certainly do not sight along a curved surface. You just the triangle that you get is imaginary lines. So I mean the question is extremely ill-formed and a very large misunderstanding of how sextants operate, basically.
No, because you need the horizontal line.
Yeah, and that's an imaginary line. Yeah, to like I said, either to the horizon or to another point if you can't see the horizon, or you can use a bubble sextant to use a plumb line as your reference, and then get it from the zenith, and then to subtract it from that, so you don't even need to look along that way. The adjacent would kind of be in the sky, or you could use the reflection of the celestial object and use the lines that you sight from that. But you don't use a sextant to look along the surface of Earth to get your point. To use a sextant, you would find the elevation of a particular star, be it from sighting the horizon using a bubble sextant or a reflection or whatever, and then that would give you the distance to the ground position for that star. Then you do that in 2 other places. Then you use trilateration to determine your actual position. So the question of do you use a curved adjacent is completely nonsensical as to how a sextant works. And by the way, let me just clarify. I was Royal Navy, and before I joined the Royal Navy, I did a lot of sailing before then, and I am what you would consider a subject matter expert about sextants. And I am telling you, as a subject matter expert, that the question about a curved adjacent and sextants is completely nonsensical.
So what you're saying is the sextants has nothing to do with the curvature of the Earth?
No, but the way that they function and the things that you can figure out with them shows that the Earth is clearly a globe. For instance, if you were to use a sextant to sight Polaris at the North Pole, you'd get exactly 90 degrees up. And then for every 69 miles or every 60 nautical miles, which, funnily enough, nautical miles prove the globe. That's an interesting video I've got coming up. But for every 60 nautical miles or 69 actual miles, the angle to Polaris reduces by 1 degree. However you find this, using bubble sextant, horizon, whatever, don't leave a curved adjacent, fucking stupid question. But for every 60 nautical miles, the angle reduces by exactly 1 degree, which, if you were to map that out on a flat Earth, would give you different elevations for Polaris every single time, showing that a sextant demonstrates that the Earth is a globe by its mere function.
Except you said 90 degrees underneath Polaris, so you're going to need a horizontal line for that, because 90 degrees is obviously two straight lines,
straight
one
up.
horizontal.
You could use the sextant to figure out that was straight up quite easily, yeah.
Yeah, but you need the horizontal line for 90 degrees, and 90 degrees is two straight lines. But yeah,
a tangent on Earth would be one of the straight lines, and you get another one. So yeah, getting a horizontal line on the curved Earth is no problem because gravity and level and stuff. So again, Rachie, those three questions that you gave me were, and I don't want this to be nasty, it's going to sound it, but those three questions were demonstrations that you are completely ignorant about how a sextant functions. Let me ask you a serious question: have you ever touched a sextant in your life?
No, I haven't. Have you?
Right. Okay. Yes, I have used them to navigate the oceans for probably thousands of hours. That's why I class myself as a subject matter expert when talking about sextants.
And you need a horizontal line, correct?
You can, if you are trying to sight something straight above you. Yeah, sure. But it's quite easy to get. It's quite easy to get a plumb measurement on Earth, so that's no problem. But again,
in order to obtain the elevation angle, you need the horizontal line.
Yeah, again, you seem to be stuck on repeat here. We're going to move past that now.
Yeah, but
I just want to clarify that every time a flat earther brings up a sextant, they show two things. They don't understand geometry, and they don't understand how sextants work. I do have a video that I am scripting, which isn't necessarily a response to flat earthers, more of a documentary about sextants and their history and their usage, so that people can actually learn how they work, because not a single flat earther does. And let me be clear, the question about a curved adjacent is a completely nonsensical question when talking about sextants.
Well, it's not, because you need triangles, don't you?
Yeah, and you can create a triangle with three imaginary lines. Yeah, but you create a triangle with three lines that are imaginary. You don't use the surface of the Earth as one of the lines. Therefore, the question about a curved adjacent is fucking ridiculous. Anyway, was that your evidence that you don't understand sextants? Brilliant.
No, that was my evidence that that sextants are not flow proof, and that
I've just explained to you why you're completely wrong. So you've learnt something now. Well done. Right, speak truth, seek truth. Back to you, dude.
Cheers, buddy. Yeah, so I'm gonna have to definitely go in about 15 minutes at most. So I mean, I don't mind who goes first, but
wait, ladies first. Rachie can do her final stuff first.
What did you learn, Rachie, from this evening? And say if you was to debate again, maybe how would you go about it next time? And have you tonight thought about your position as to you might be wrong?
Well, I've seen no evidence that I'm wrong, and basically, you can't help yourself, can you?
Oh shit! I actually thought I was muted. My bad. But sorry. Carry on.
Yeah. Well, basically, no, I haven't really learned anything tonight. FTFE, but I'm muted. FTFE basically just says, look here, look there, denies and says nutter, and that's basically all he has. And yeah, he wasn't able to back up any of his claims whatsoever. He wasn't able to prove any curvature of the Earth, although he says science doesn't prove things, so therefore he doesn't even have a proof of a globe, so he can't really say it's a globe anyway. But yeah, so no, I haven't really learned anything. For future debates, I'd like somebody a little more intellectually honest, somebody who is still not muted.
Sorry, accusing me of being intellectually dishonest is fucking hilarious. Oh, sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, thank you. I needed that. Oh my goodness.
And yeah, basically that's his response because he knows I'm right. So, yeah.
So did it not bother you that you couldn't present a working map at all?
No, because it's hidden. So I provided evidence, you just said no earlier.
Sorry, I've got to ask, what evidence did you provide?
Well, I provided the 21-mile laser experiment.
Yeah, which isn't evidence of a flat Earth. That could technically work on both flat and the globe.
No,
so, I mean...
you just say and say refraction. That's not you know.
I didn't. I explained why. Oh my god. Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
you said
I'm sorry.
refraction.
I
You're
didn't
gonna
just
need
say
eyeball.
refraction. I explained the mechanics behind refraction and why it demonstrates what we. Oh, I'm sorry. I don't mean to. I'm sorry. When she said I didn't present any. When she said, oh my god.
You didn't present any evidence. What evidence did you present?
I presented measurements of the Earth rotating and showed you one being done and explained the mechanics behind it.
No, you showed me a pendulum going backwards and forwards.
Yeah, that was the measurement of the Earth's rotation. Yes.
No, that's not. That's what you think it is, but it's not.
Well, no, that's what it is. That's what would expect to happen. That's what
Guys.
they measure.
Let's save this for round 3. Let's save this round 3. Let's book it in for sometime, sometime soon. But I have got to get going soon to bed.
Okay.
Miss FTFE, mate, what's your roundup for the evening?
There is no flat Earth evidence presented in this debate. None at all. The 21 miles, like I said, is less than a third of a degree of curvature, and we know that lasers can bend. We know that refraction exists. I've shown evidence of looming specifically several times. So that's not even a measurement. And let's look at her own standards here. Was that laser test done 100 times, and did they get the same result every time? If it wasn't, then Rachie has no right using it as any kind of evidence, because her standards of evidence are that it has to be repeated 100 times before she accepts it as evidence.
Just
of
like to
anything.
interrupt, there are plenty of evidences of that, not just one, but yeah, carry on.
Sorry, so was that laser test done 100 times?
There are many laser tests.
No.
Remember,
Remember, your specific standard of evidence was it has to be done in the same place 100 times.
For a gravimeter, yes. For a gravimeter, yes.
Oh right, so
Especially
you've
if
got
you
different.
changes
So
over
you've got
location.
different standards of evidence for laser tests and gravimeters. That
No,
is
but the
intellectual
thing,
dishonesty.
No, because the thing
Anyway,
is
I'm going to carry on with what I was saying now.
you're not gonna let
I'm
me-
going to carry
you're
on
not
with what I
gonna
was
let me
saying now
rebut what you're
because
saying,
So
Come
so
on.
intellectual dishonesty with different standards of evidence depending on whether she thinks it backs her up or not, which is just demonstrated there. Complete misunderstanding of all physics ever. As demonstrated with the questions about pendulums, the misunderstanding of flight plans, the presenting a NASA document about modelling as evidence of the Earth is flat, which in itself is the fallacy of stolen concept. So until Flat Earth can actually present me with a measurement of the Earth being flat and non-rotating that meets the scientific standards of being a measurement, there is, in my mind, no evidence that supports the Earth being flat. And Rachie certainly did not present any here. And this was a really bad showing for Flat Earth, worse than I thought it would be. Thanks for moderating, STST. You were brilliant.
Thank you, mate. And thank you, Rachie, of course, as well. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed tonight. We managed to keep away from RDE and RDD and gravity for quite a while, so I really enjoyed it. And I think the chat seemed to, they said I did a good job, and you guys both did a great job.
Yeah, you did brilliantly, mate.
Oh, thank you so much, mate. Yeah, and I really enjoyed it, and it's just it's an honour. I'm going to say it with a capital H, mate. Honour with a capital H to be on this channel moderating. So thank you very much.
Appreciate that. And it's an honour to have you here. You've been actually a large part of my journey within Flat Earth from the very first time we talked in comments, and I'm glad to know you, Rachie. Thank you for coming on, and for actually there was a couple of button heads, and you and I both know that's going to happen. But this was a much better conversation than the first time. I'm sure you'd agree with that, right?
Yeah, definitely.
Right.
But one more thing just to add.
Let me just finish. I know that you had issues, health and stuff, and I would like to say to my fans, please don't attack Rachie for stupid things like that. If you think she said something stupid, then comment on her. But don't ever please go and attack someone personally on my behalf, as I don't like that. And Rachie, like me, is someone that has pain issues and stuff, and I know how debilitating that is and how mind-numbing and soul-destroying that can be. So please don't, go personally attacking her about anything about her personal life or being a woman or anything like that. For me, please don't do that.
I just
sorry,
like to
Rachie,
thank you for saying that. Yeah.
No worries.
And,
I mean,
yeah.
we should all be friends at the end of the day. Like, we should all come out of a debate and think about it. You know, Rachie, FTFE, wake up tomorrow and, you know, kind of think it over and don't look at things and think of things so defensively. That's all I could say. Like, me speaking now as an ex-flat earther, have an open mind and don't just try to debunk what's coming at you. Question what you believe. And that's for all science. That's what it's about as far as I've learned, and I know nothing about science, but I know that it never ends and there's never a final answer. And like you say, there is no proof, FTFE, because the answer could always change if better evidence comes along, and acceptance of that is, I think, what a lot of people should try and do. Flat earther or anti-vaxxer or what, but yeah, that's me out. Thank you so much for having me on, FTFE, and thanks, Rachie, for coming along.
No worries. I will put links to both Rachie and STST in my chat, in the description. Sorry. Feel free to go and check their stuff out. Rachie's is a great comedy channel, obviously. Rachie, again, thank you very much for coming on. I'm going to read super chats. You're welcome to stay, but you know they're probably not going to be nice towards you, so it's up to you.
No, it's okay. Thanks for having me on.
No worries. I'll speak to you later.
Thanks, Rachie.
Sure.
Are you hanging around Seek Truth, or are you going as well?
I'm going to hang around, mate.
All right. Thank you very much. Right. Let's have a look at these super chats then. Guys, thank you very much for watching today. A lot of effort goes into making these shows and the intros and stuff. The fact that I think it peaked at 860 viewers, which is fantastic. And the amount of super chats I've got is ridiculous, and the support you give me warms my fucking heart. Thank you so much for everything. If you want to help support the channel and you can't do it financially, the best way to do it is obviously to share what I do on Facebook and Twitter. Just tag Elon Musk constantly and say, watch this flat earth thing, because if he tweets me, maybe I'll go big, who knows. But thank you everyone for being here, and let's have a look at the rest of the super chats. Eon Dust, $5, sweetie, all you got is eye rolling and I ain't convinced. Maybe take up an easier pastime like learning how to charge a phone or use... yeah, I knew that would be nice. Abelis for $5 Canadian. Serious question, please. What is her educational background? Thank you. I don't want to talk on her behalf. I know she did finish high school, she told me, with relatively good grades, apparently. I don't know if she has any higher education. You'd have to ask her herself.
That's the thing with Rachie. She is an intelligent girl, and some people, it's not just idiots that fall for conspiracies, if you know what I mean. Sometimes, you do get swept away in something, and you might think you specialise in this certain subject, and she's been swept away by it.
Yeah, absolutely. Norman Dixon, $10 says, can you ask her if RDD is true, why don't we slow down as we fall to Earth? We should, because the air is more dense closer to the ground, which would cause us to slow down. Now, that was a discussion I actually had with Sleeping Warrior, and he said about terminal velocity, which the terminal velocity does increase the closer you get to the ground, but the acceleration you experience doesn't really change as you go towards the ground, which would if RDD were to make sense. In the video I'm doing covering Rachie, I'm going through her maths on RDD, and find out that obviously one of the main things is that with the 9.81 meters per second squared that we get here on Earth, with gravity and Newton's laws and everything, we can actually derive that. With RDD, there is no way to derive that 9.81 meters per second squared, which is very interesting. Fog Repair Ship Akashi for $5. IQ 0. Why do we see more when we go higher in altitude? On a flat Earth, we would see less due to angular resolution of the eye. Simple mathematics. Yeah, things don't disappear bottom up for no reason. Fog Repair Ship Akashi, $2. Please explain radar shadow on a flat Earth. I don't think she'd know what that is. Al Agami for $169 Donkey Kong dollars. Thank you. Whoa, Rachie truly has a non-trivial margin of error, and then she is not a fan of measurements or intellectual integrity. Johnny Marr, $5. Rachie, why is there a predictable circular shadow on the moon if the Earth is flat? Magic, obviously. Kyle D. Bear, $10. Glad to support and watch your material. Thank you very much for the support. Brendan Cuskelly, $5. Just to stop saying things over and over, Rachie. Nuh-uh, doesn't work. Alison for $5. So, Rachie, why do I have to account for a globe in my flight plans? Well, it's easy, because the Earth's a globe. Tiny Captain, €5. You want R? 360 times 60 equals 2,160. 21,600, sorry. 21,600 divided by 2 pi equals 34,038 nautical miles. 34,038 times 1,852 equals 6.4 times 10 to the 6 meters, and there is R. Yeah, that's basically how nautical miles prove a globe, which is brilliant. Harry Seven's been a member for 8 months. No working model of Earth, but smarter than PhDs. Yeah, isn't that Flat Earth Dunning-Kruger all over? Arliss, $5 Canadian says, nuh-uh isn't evidence. No, you're right, it definitely isn't evidence. Fogger Persha Pakashi, $5. I'll give a statement as that document. Stop quoting me, flirfs. I know you're all uneducated, but aircraft aren't rigid and constant mass. Yeah, I absolutely love when they quote that NASA document to me, because I can just point out the things in it that actually don't exist, including, you know, the flat Earth. Someone said to me, aircraft are rigid, don't be stupid. So I showed them a video of an aircraft wing being made and how it can literally bend like this. That's not fucking rigid.
It must bend by like probably over a meter.
Oh, way more than that. Like, you know, I think they've got like, you know, 50% move. It's crazy how much they can actually bend. And the entire body of the plane can like deform and stuff. You know, aircraft are not rigid in the slightest.
Earlier on, actually, in the debate, and I think it was Deadly Dave that brought it up, was like the key word in that, like, and I never thought of it, was the way NASA used the word assume.
Yeah.
Because obviously, if the word was flat and stationary, you wouldn't even use the word assume in in your wording, would you? If you know what I mean, you'd just say the Earth is flat and stationary. You know, so it just shows us for the application of a model, or you know, it's just. Oh, Rachie!
It's not just Rachie, it's all flat earthers. Whenever they present that, it's just like self-debunk. Good job.
I did. Yep, that was my go-to.
Pat G, $4.99. Rachie, just curious, have you seen the Tunning torso videos? Also starring taking the Earth as flat and stationary is not saying the Earth is flat. Yeah, you will never find a single NASA document that says the Earth is flat and stationary. And if a flat earther finds one, I'll give them £1,000. And that's not the only challenge I've got. I've got a challenge for Rachie, for Creeping Child Predator Warrior, or for any flat earthers, and it's a challenge that can get my channel deleted, right? And it's simple, is to get someone on a stream with you who has at least a degree in physics that says specifically that I am wrong about gravity and explains why. Right? They have to have a degree in physics, and they have to say specifically that I'm wrong and explain why, and I'll delete my channel. And I've had that challenge for 3 years. And it should be
one guy years ago, weren't there? He kind of disappeared, but he ended up being like quite a terrible physicist, apparently.
Oh, Brian Mullins, he was the one that came up with Force the Line, a literal impossible test because things aren't rigid. So yeah, if a flat earther wants to get my channel deleted, then bring someone on with an actual degree in physics. They've passed, they've got a complete physics degree, and to tell me I'm wrong about gravity and explain why, and I'll delete my channel. And if gravity isn't real and I'm wrong, then that shouldn't be hard. But there you go. Magellan, for 5 Sega Genesis dollars, all of the world's logistics companies, militaries, airlines, everything uses the standard globe model and map. Rachie, stop talking nonsense. There's not a working map of the Earth on the globe. Yeah, there is. It's called the fucking globe. Stephen York for 10 Australian dollars. Whilst actually watching this debate, I tested Rachie's claim about the ceiling rotating affecting the pendulum. She's clearly wrong. Link in Discord FTF. Oh, brilliant. I can include that in my... my documentary. Fogger Persha Pakashi for $2. Rachie, Australia isn't twice the size of Canada. Nope. Yeah, AEMAP debunked. P Barnes, $5 Australian. More debates moderated by STST, please. Doing a great job keeping the conversation on track. Yeah, you can come back and moderate anytime, my friend.
Mate, thank you.
Yeah. Hey, Bettis, $5 Canadian. Rachie, what is under your flat Earth, and can you show pictures, please? Yeah, I mean, they say that's a straw man because they've never claimed anything about underneath, but you know. Aries for $5 Canadian. Arles for $5 Canadian. When I was in drug addiction, I've heard more cohesive arguments had by people that have been up for 7 days, and they were arguing with a cow, with a crow, even. Fucking hell, even worse. Dave Rogers for $5. If the Earth were flat, then why make any determination as to its shape in any model, document, or paper, etc.? Why wouldn't you just assume flat? Yeah, you would just, it would just be flat. You wouldn't use the word assume. You're right. Brendan Cuschetti, $10. I'm a truck driver and I drive to the same place and I use almost the same fuel each way. Stop being delusional. She said it'd be harder driving east. oh my god, there's so many good sound bites in this debate. Oh, so many. Jesus Christ.
Yes. Ooh, dude, she got annihilated tonight. As a impartial moderator, compared to that first one, we're not being funny, like to an outsider, it was just but I think as a fair debate, you whooped her ass, man. I
feel like I've done really well in my debates the past 2 days. Steve6464, $5. That film is called Slides of Transparency. Most likely it's a Kodachrome. Right, thank you. I know that now. I know it's not called a negative. It's a slide or transparency. Thank you. I'll put that in my knowledge bank. Cody Payne, $2, but he retracted his message. Let me know if you want the super chat refunded. Vincent Tremblay for $2 Canadian says gas in a vacuum. Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus. Yeah, but they're just lights in the sky, dude. And then Cody Payne gave another $1 with no message, thank you. Michael Hoyes for $5. Why are ham operators able to triangulate on the signals from space and get the correct distance? You can't fucking triangulate anything with ham. Don't be silly. I want a sandwich now. Frog Repair Ship Akashi, $2. She thinks molecules act like marbles, face desk. Yeah. You want to blow a flat earther's mind? Tell them they've never touched anything in their life. Because, even though our hand seems solid, most of our hand is empty space.
Yes.
The atoms in your hand have never touched anything.
That's what sent me down the path of flat Earth, dude.
Really?
That very statement.
Oh shit!
Yeah, do you know what I mean?
Forget what I just said.
I shared this video the other day actually, and it was kind of saying actually, children, or don't quote me on this, anyone, and I'm going to sound like such a shill, but children do get told lies when they're little, but in a way where it simplifies the science or the way they explain the universe. So at the time you think that, maybe all the planets are actually quite close to each other.
Yeah.
Or, you don't understand, and it gets spoon-fed to you in a way. And, but this video I watched, and I was like, oh, bloody hell, if the Flat Earthers watched that, and it literally says, sometimes, yes, you do get lied to at school. And I was like, oh, soundbite, here we go. But,
yeah.
Again, don't jump on it. But, there's a reason for it, and it is because things are so hard to understand. So, say a flat earther or someone like me who believed it, when you find it, it's so easy. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You really, within a week, you can learn the tricks of Sleep and Warrior and have someone in a PhD sound like they're twisters in knots.
Yeah.
Because you just ask these ridiculous questions and you suddenly feel so powerful, and it's a slippery slope, but yeah.
Yeah, and that's why, the fact I've done close to 600 debates of Flat Earth, I've learnt the scripts. And that's what Rachie came with tonight was, the Sleep and Warrior script, the QE script, the Nathan Oakley script. And even their new script about the sextants, which I've been kind of staying out of the argument. I've been letting other people deal with it because I've been doing other stuff. But like I said, I'm literally a subject matter expert on sextant. In fact, I might get my sextant sent to me and show people how it's used and stuff. Because I do have my own. And, listening to the Flat Earthers talk about, so clueless. I was, I was doing the dishes and I put on a Nathan Oakley stream where they were talking about it. And it was like they were talking about someone else entirely. They're so clueless. about the things that they're talking about, but they talk to each other like they're experts. And oh yes, and you just think you're absolute fucking clowns. Not one of them has ever touched a sextant in their life. You know, it's fucking amazing.
Apart from Flatzoid with the old 60-degree right angle.
Yeah.
But
I just saw something in the chat there. I did give Rachie the opportunity to stay and listen to super chats. And if you wanted a question answered by her specifically and you didn't get that, I am sorry. And if you would like me to refund the super chat, then please contact me. But I find flat earthers don't tend to stick around for the super chats here. But you know, I can try and put the questions to her in another way if you like. Anyway, Sir Saya Mickey the Third says, Rachie, why would everything go up and Mercury go down? Oh yeah, that was an interesting one. Magdalene 5 Sega Genesis dollars asked, does your weight change when low pressure weather systems come in? The pressure can drop by as much as 3%. Did she say pressure causes it, or was it just density? I'm not sure now. Excuse me. Earth is life for $5. Can you make an object more dense and have it accelerate faster towards the ground? No, you can't. Ropey in the chat says maybe FTFE can do a bid on sextants and their use. I'm definitely going to. I'm just letting the flat earthers get all of their stupid out about it. Because I don't think they're quite finished yet.
yes.
Fog of Pership Akashi, $5. Rate of gravity was relative density, gas would go up. Zoom, zoom. Thing is, gas go down, go boom, boom. Even Slappy knows that, Rachie. More Stalker for $2. Rachie IQ 0 got owned and shut down. Thank you. Common sense criticism, $2. So are the 5 zeros her IQ or? Yeah, there we go. The logical hillbilly for $5 says RDD explains flirts perfectly. Remedial, dysfunctional, and delusional. Agreed, 100%. New member Michael Acosta has been a member for 14 months. Says, I will never understand Flirt's arrogance. They can't even entertain the idea that maybe they're wrong. I've always said that the difference between a smart person and a stupid person is if you correct a smart person, they say thank you. If you correct a dumb person like a flat earther, they start crying.
That is true.
Pronoun 1990 499. She's like the female version of Lemon Bird. Oh my god, my head needs rum so bad because my mermaid brain is gone. Love you, Globe Earth. Truth Nerds, €5. Flat Earthers have no map of Earth and no map of the sky, yet they pretend they can perform celestial navigation. Magic. I know. They don't understand how badly a sextant kills the flat Earth. They've got no idea. No idea. Stringer News 1, $5. 2021 is the year of the sextant, and in 2021, everyone uses GNSS satellites to navigate.
They are so behind, do you know what I mean? Like they're now discovering the sextant. Do you know what I mean? Like, you know, people know how to use it, dudes. Like, you know, people navigate with that shit they have for hundreds of years. Like,
it's fucking hilarious. Eric Hare, $5. How can somebody who has no idea how a sextant works argue like this? It's absolutely insane. Yeah. Earth is life, $5. Rachie, stop listening to other flat earthers when it comes to sextants. None of them have ever used one. Yeah, Tiny Captain. I've got quite an expensive one, actually, with a crystal mirror in it. I'll see if I can get it sent up from my storage unit in Bristol. Dick Insider for $5 Canadian. Why is Rachie ultra critical with impossibly high standards of evidence for the globe Earth, but blindly believes the flat Earth? Because it's how flat Earth works. And you saw how her standard of evidence changed from a gravitometer proving, that shows gravity is a fact to the laser experiment. Oh, well, I only want the 100 things for that. I don't need it for that. It's because anything that destroys them, they have to find ways to make it not real.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. You're right. It's ridiculous. Fog of Persia Pakashi, $5. Accuses FTFE of intellectual dishonesty, completely strawmans arguments and misquotes NASA document. Excuse me, Rachie, but are you high? Probably not, but I fucking am. And then Joey Oakley, 99 cents with a rose sticker. Thank you very much. And that's where we're going to end it tonight. Again, Seek Truth, Speak Truth, thank you very much for being what I consider to be an amazing moderator. And I think the general consensus is going to be that you were. So thank you very much.
Legend, mate. No, thank you. I feel like I had to step up, and I did.
You did really well.
Thank you. And everyone in the chat, I noticed a lot of people commenting on that, so thank you. But yeah, I'm going to take all the self-glory and stop bathing in it. And yeah, thank you all. And I'll see you soon. Check me out.
Yeah, go and check out Seek Truth's channel. He does like anti-flat earth stuff as well. Talking about how he became a flat earther, and he does a couple of like little cool documentary things, which I really enjoy watching as well. I want to see more of those from you, dude. I really do.
Thank you, man.
Because I think they could be your. I see you as almost like Tom Scott.
I wish.
Yeah, I could see you being like him with the kind of interesting things that you talk about. Like, but I'd rather watch you do it than him. So.
Well,
one more super chat, Glenn Riley, £1. Thank you guys very much. I'm going to finish with the intro again that I did at the beginning because I'm very proud of that intro. And then I'll do my normal outro. So I'm going to say it now. Thank you very much, everyone, for watching. I will see you soon. Remember, stupidity is not a right. Fight the flat earth. Yeah, you got no bicep. Pull it down.